Welcome to my PowerPoint Slides for Business Professionals course. It contains lessons covering 20 of the most commonly used business slides. I will take you through these step by step, building the examples shown so you will end up with the knowledge and skills to create your own professional and engaging slides. This course is designed for business professionals looking to elevate their PowerPoint skills. And all the PowerPoint files shown in this course are available for you to download and use as you wish. In this course, we will look at slide masters that can make all your layouts look consistent and professional. Testimonial slides that can build trust, credibility, and support your position. A slide that introduces your core team members and their expertise. Business models or pricing structure or choice of service tiers. Key achievements and progress points. Using icons to show your unique value proposition. Tables to highlight competitive advantages and key differentiators. A key data point slide to highlight critical information, statistics and metrics. Market opportunity slides that can help investors and stakeholders gauge potential revenue and growth. A flexible layout to show a high-level overview of your product or service. Geographical data to show regional office locations, customer markets or supply lines. A sales funnel to show how you attract, engage and convert leads. Financial revenue to impress investors or stakeholders. A clear, concise overview of a business process. A Swot analysis to identify factors that can impact success. A Gantt chart for planning project timelines and managing resources. A layer diagram to illustrate hierarchies, processes or systems. A data dashboard of key information and metrics. An eye-catching and memorable title slide, and an engaging agenda and effective section header slides. By the end of this course, you'll be equipped to deliver presentations that not only look professional, but also captivate and persuade your audience. I hope you enjoy the course, and please do get in touch with me if you have any questions. So we'll start this course by creating a basic slide master. We'll do this to keep the slides consistent and looking professional throughout. So we'll start with a blank presentation by simply going to New and Blank Presentation, and then we can create our slide master. So we'll go to View and choose Slide Master. This is the default slide master. Using the slide master in PowerPoint will allow you to control the look and feel of your whole presentation, including colours, fonts, backgrounds, and more. For all business presentations and particularly pitch decks, it's really important that every slide looks clear, clean and professional, so the layouts must be consistent. And using the slide master will allow you to keep your slides consistent and professional throughout. Each slide master will contain a number of layouts. This first thumbnail here, with the one next to it, is the slide master. This is where you can set the overall settings that will apply to every layout. So if we click here, I can change the colour and the font of the title. I'm going to change it to a standard blue here, a standard light blue. And I'm going to change the font to Inter Black. You can use any font you want. If you use a Google font, or other similar fonts, you will be able to save the font inside your presentation so everyone can see and edit with the correct font without having to install it. I'm also going to centre this and make it slightly smaller. I'm going to choose 36. I'm also going to align it to the top of the page by going to Arrange, Align, Align Top. I'm going to click on the text underneath and also make that Inter, but not black this time, just Inter. And I'm going to make this body text a little bit smaller by going to this A here and clicking, and that will set all of the text a little bit smaller. I'm now going to go to this third layout here called Title and Content, and I'm going to add a subtitle. And to do that, we can go to Insert Placeholder in the Slide Master section and choose Text. I can click anywhere Then drag it out across the page, turn off the bullets. I'm going to type click to add subtitle, then click and center it and make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to hold down Shift, roll over till the mouse turns to a 4-pointed arrow. Now hold down the mouse button and drag up, so I can have my subtitle just where I want it, and let go. Holding down Shift locks the X position as you drag up or down. Now we can go to Slide Master, and under Fonts, I can actually customize the fonts I want to use. So I can select Customize Fonts and pick two fonts, one that I want to use for the heading and one for the body. So I'm going to choose Inter Black, the heading, and Inter for the body. I can name this if I want to, and press Save. This font is available from the Google Fonts collection, and to save it inside PowerPoint, we can go to File, Save As, More Options, and under Tools, Save Options, and make sure we've selected this, Embed Fonts in the file, and chosen to embed all characters. This means that other people can edit your presentation without having to install the font. And then click OK. You can also access this by going to File, Options, Save, and then selecting it from there. So now whenever the file's saved, it will include the font inside the file. Now we've set up a basic layout and chosen the fonts, we can select some colours. So I'm going to go to Colours and choose Customize Colours. From here, you can define 6 colours, which PowerPoint calls accent colours. You can also change what PowerPoint calls text background colours, and while PowerPoint calls these by different names, they essentially give you up to 4 more custom colours for your palette. I would advise leaving black and white as the first 2 colours here, the dark and light one, as it's useful to have each of these colours ready by default, regardless of the rest of the palette. You can also choose 2 colours for hyperlinks, but these are less important as these do not appear in the Theme Colours palette when using the drawing tools. So you can set these colours by clicking the drop down, then going to More Colours, and either choosing them from this colour selection or typing the hex value. I know the hex value that I want for these 8, so I can copy and paste each one in. Now we can add a name and click Save. We can also delete any of these layouts to simplify what we're working with. For example, these ones are rarely used, so I can click on them and then click Delete. If you want to add in your own custom layout, you can right-click and choose Insert Layout. You can also even have multiple slide masters by going to Insert and Insert Slide Master, and each of those can have various layouts. For this course, we're going to keep things simple with one slide master. You can also add in any other graphics or things such as logos, and to do that, I click on the main slide master here that's got number 1 next to it, and I'm just quickly going to paste in a logo that I want to use. These can be changed at any time by going into the slide master. So now if I close the slide master view, you'll see we have a basic title here, and any subtitle. Then if I go to New Slide, Title and Content, that'll be the one that we've created. Now, every slide that you design in this way will have the title and the subtitle in the correct place. Here's a nice way of presenting quotes or testimonials. You can also place these alongside other content. So to start this, from the slide master we created in the previous lesson, we can go to New Slide and choose Title and Content. I'll just quickly type in my title and my subtitle. We don't need this area, so we can click on it to select it and then press Delete. Now we're going to start with a rounded corner rectangle, which is available in the drawing panel as the second rectangle along here, and once you've used it, it will appear in recently used shapes. We can click anywhere to start and drag. I'm going to turn off the shape outline, select No Outline, and the shape fill is already the blue that I want to use. Now we can add our text, and I want this to be aligned to the center, which we can do here, Align Center, and if you right click, Format Shape, go to Text Options, Text Box, make sure that Vertical Alignment Middle is selected. That will mean that however big you make the shape, it will always vertically align to the middle. I'll press Ctrl Z to undo that now. And we also want Do Not Auto-Fit to be selected. You can drag this out to whatever size you want, and you can adjust how round the corners are by clicking on this little yellow dot and dragging it to the left to reduce the amount of rounded corners. And you can add some left and right margins in to add some space. So for example, I'm going to type 0.5 and 0.5. I'm now going to align that to the center by going to Arrange in the drawing section, Align, Align Center. For the quote, I'm going to add a small circle, so I'll click Oval, click once anywhere, and it will add the circle. I'm going to make this the darker blue and with no outline. I'm going to drag it up to here, align it to the center by going to Align Center in the Arrange section, then size it down slightly. And in this example, the best way of doing this is to hold down Ctrl and Shift while you click on one of the corner points and then drag in. That looks good. And we can now click speech marks on the keyboard to add the speech marks. And I'm going to make these the font Arial, just because I think the actual character for the speech mark looks better for that. And make it bold and size it up. We can also go to Text Options, Text Box, and adjust the margins so it appears in the center. For the last part, we're going to add a triangle at the bottom of the rectangle, and to do that we'll go into the drawing menu again, click on the drop down and select Triangle, which is the third across on the first row of basic shapes. Once used, it will be available in your recently used shapes. Once selected, we can click anywhere, and I want to rotate this round. To do that, you can either hold down Shift while you click on this circular arrow and drag it round, or you can go to Rotate and choose Flip Vertical. I also don't want this to have an outline, so I'll go to Shape Outline None, drag it up so it's in the right position vertically, hold down Shift as I click on the corner point and drag to resize it. This will keep the ratio the same. Then go to Align and Align Center. I'm going to move all of this up a bit so I can fit in the photo at the bottom. And to do that, I can click anywhere, drag over everything, hold down Shift on the keyboard, click down with my mouse and keep the mouse held down and drag up. You can insert any picture you want, but I'm going to add one from the stock library. Then we can go to Crop, Aspect Ratio 1:1, Crop, Crop to Shape, Oval. Then we can adjust as necessary to fit it as best as possible in the frame. This will be about the size that I want it, and then right click, choose Crop, and I can drag it up by holding Shift and move it inside the frame to get exactly the crop I want. You can hold down Ctrl and Shift to size it from the center and click and drag to move it around. That looks good. Now I can click off, drag it into position, and I'm actually going to use this black and white as in the example. And to do that, when the picture's selected and you're on Format Picture, you can go to Picture, picture color, and just take the saturation down to 0. I'm now just going to quickly paste in the text for the name and the position, and also move this up a little bit more just so it balances up nicely. Testimonials can also be used to back up and add credibility to other content, so let's resize this. So I'll click on this middle left point here, drag to the right, size the text down by 1, make sure the circle's aligned with this by clicking on the circle, then clicking on the panel, going to Arrange, Align Center. I'm now going to align this text to the left, so we can go here, Align Left, and drag it up so it's in position. Now I can select all of this by clicking, dragging across and make sure everything's covered, and then drag it to the right. So for example, we could now have something like a chart on the left-hand side, and having the quote designed like that on the right gives everything a nice balance. I'll click on this and click Delete. As for one last example, we could actually use 2 quotes, and a quick way of doing this is to drag across this content, hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag to the left. If everything's selected, it will make a copy of it. I'll show you how to center all of it in a minute. We can now type our new text in here. I'm going to make this text one smaller by clicking on this little A here. I'm going to change this photo, which we can do quickly by right-clicking, change picture from stock images. We can crop the image as we did before by right-clicking and choosing crop, clicking to size up the image how we want it and dragging it into the right position so it's balanced with the other photo, and clicking off it. And I also want to make it black and white, which we did by removing the saturation from the picture color. Now I can type in the new name and position. And to center it, we can make sure everything's selected and then drag it into position. Finally, we could add some simple animation if we wanted to. So we could click on this circle, go to Animations and choose Zoom. Click on this panel and this triangle. Ctrl G to group them. Right click, Send to Back. And for this, I'm going to choose Fly In from the left under Effect Options. We can also go to the animation pane, double click on the fly in and give it a smooth end, which is a nice smooth effect. And then we can fade these in. So I'll click on the first one, click on the second one, Ctrl G to group, fade, and I'm going to set these two to after previous. So what that means, that you can click once, this circle will appear with a zoom, this panel will fly in from the left, and then this will fade in. Click. Looking good. We'll just apply that to this side. So that's a zoom on this one. Click on that, hold down Shift, click on the triangle, Ctrl G to group, right click, send to back, fly in, effect options from right, double click on this, adjust the slider so it's on a smooth end of 0.5, set it to after previous, and then click on the photo, hold down Shift, click on the name, Ctrl G to group, fade, and set that to happen after previous. So let's play that. A nice looking quote slide that's quite simple to create. And this can be easily reused because you can easily change colours and styles and the fonts to match your brand. This slide introduces your core team members and their expertise. You can highlight any relevant industry experience or notable achievements. Try to match the size and crop of each photo so everything looks professional and smart. Also, try to use the same amount of text for each team member to keep things clear and easy to read. If there is a founder or other key personnel that has a lot more content, you could consider putting them on a separate slide. Let's start by adding the title, which I'm quickly going to paste in to save time, and the subtitle. In this example, we have 5 team members, so let's draw a panel roughly the right size and position. I'm going to choose a rounded corner rectangle, which is the second option in here. We can resize it to fit in the screen later on. For now, I'm going to reduce how round these corners are by clicking on this little yellow dot and dragging to the left. That looks good. I also want this to be a very light grey and to have no outline. I can duplicate these by pressing Ctrl D, dragging them into position, then Ctrl D another 3 times. And I'm now going to resize them all very slightly, center them, and then we can add our text and photos. So I'll click here, drag over all of these, Ctrl G to group, bring them in a little bit so there's some border around the side. That looks about right. Then go to Align and Align Center, which will align it to the center of the page. I can now ungroup them with Ctrl, Shift and G at the same time. Now let's add our text in. I'm just going to paste in some generic text, but I would recommend to use a similar amount of text for each team member to keep things clear and easy to read. Now I've pasted my text in, I'm going to select all of these, change the color to the color I want, which is this dark blue. Set the size for the body text, which will be 12 by typing 12 and pressing return. I'm going to change some of the text formatting. I'm going to make the names and the roles bold, so I'll press Ctrl B while that's selected and do that for the others. I'm going to make the names a light blue color, so I'm going to select this light blue and also make it 15 point by typing 15 here. And once selected, I can go to the Format Painter, double click it, then click and drag till the last letter, and that will apply the same text size, font and color as the text that was originally selected. Now I've set them all, I can press Escape. So I'm going to line the text on all of these so it's at the top. So we'll select them all by dragging over them, right click, Format Object, then go to Text Options, and in the text box section, Vertical Alignment, Top. I also want to set the top margin to 2.6, and that's so I have plenty of space to add the photo. I'm now going to add in some example photos. When using your own photos, try to use photos with similar lighting, position and style. When cropping and resizing in PowerPoint, try to match the size and crop of each photo so everything looks professional and smart. In this example, I'm going to be cropping to a 1:1 ratio in a circle, and I'm looking to get the head and shoulders in the shot. So I'm going to go to Crop, Aspect Ratio and choose 1:1, then Crop to Shape and choose Oval. I'm now going to size it down by clicking and dragging the corner dot, put it into position, and you'll see both smart guides appear here, one horizontally and one vertically, and that means we're centered in the right place on the panel. Now I can right click and crop, and then I can use the corner handles to zoom in to the exact part I want and click to drag. So that's about the right size. Just going to position it about there and then click off. If you want to make this a little bit smaller, as I will in this example, just so it's slightly under this subtitle text, I can click on the corner circle, hold the mouse down, hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag in a bit. Ctrl D to duplicate and drag it into the right position, again waiting for the guides to appear. Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D, and now they're all in the right position. I'd like to add a bit of space between the subtitle and the photos, so I can click on this, hold down Shift and drag it up. To change these pictures, we can right-click on them, change and choose your picture. You can then adjust the crop as needed by right-clicking, choosing crop, dragging on these corner handles and position it as you wish. Right-click, crop, and I want to size this up from the middle, so I'll hold Ctrl and Shift while I drag the corner, and then drag it into position. Each time, going for a similar look, where the heads and shoulders are in and about the same size. Again, right-click, right-click to crop, hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag. Then drag into position. Looks good. Finally, we could add in some animation if we wanted to. So I could make these panels fly in by clicking Animations and choosing Fly In. And then something like a zoom on this would look good, which I would set to happen after previous. So on each click, the panel would fly in and the photo would zoom in. I'll just quickly apply that to these. So flying on this, zoom after previous on the photo. If you wish to make the fly-in have a smooth effect, we can go to Animation pane, select each one of the fly-ins, which are these here with the numbers in front of them. If you roll over it, the small tooltip will say fly-in. So I'll click on the first one, hold down Control, and click on each subsequent one, then right-click, go to Effect Options, and give it a smooth end. That will apply it to every one of them. And click OK. Now when we run that, each panel will slow down slightly in a smooth way as it flies in, and then the photo will zoom in. This gives a really nice effect. This is a slide that can be used to explain your business model, pricing structure, or choice of service tiers. For my example, I will display 3 pricing tiers. So I'll quickly paste in the title and the subtitle. Now we can add our first rectangle. So we'll go to Drawing, click in the Shapes menu, choose Rectangle and click Anywhere. I want this to be 12 high by 10 wide. So I'll click on the height option in the size section and type 12. Press Tab to go to the next one and then 10. I'll turn off the outline of this shape by going to Shape Outline and selecting No Outline. Then we'll add some text by clicking on the text box, then clicking and dragging to add this text onto the shape. I'll type the price, change the font to bold, white and 60 point, center the text, drag it into position and make sure it's in the center by either clicking and dragging until you see the smart guide appear for the center, or you can hold down Shift, select both and then choose Arrange, Align Center. To make the next text line, we can hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag this down. Ctrl A to select all our text. type the details we want, select them, and then change the size. I'll be using 16 point and not bold. Next, we'll add a simple line. Going to drawing and choosing the first option in lines, clicking, holding down shift and dragging across, and setting the outline to white. You can adjust any of these vertically by clicking, holding shift and dragging up or down. I also want to make a copy of this, control and shift and drag down. I'm going to quickly paste in my text to save time. I want this to be size 15 point, and I also want to increase the line spacing. So for that, we go to paragraph, click on this drop down here. I'm going to choose 1.5. That looks good for the first one. We can select all of this, hold down shift, click and drag to move it slightly to the left while we're working on it, then Control D to duplicate. Put it anywhere for now and Control D again. We can now type the different text. We can now colour the left and right panels in a darker shade. And under the theme, I'm going to choose the second darkest one up. And the same for the one on the right. Now I'm going to select all of this, group it, and make sure it's in the centre of the page by going to Arrange, Align, Align Centre. I also want to group these, Control G to group, Control G to group. And then to create the nice depth effect, I'm going to click, hold down shift and drag this up slightly. Then click on this one, hold down shift and drag it in slightly. And do the same for this one. I also want to right click and choose center back. I can make sure these two are aligned by clicking on the first one, holding down shift and clicking on the second, then going to Arrange, Align, Align Top. Now we'll add a small triangle to the bottom, and for that we'll go to the drawing menu, drop down and choose Right Triangle, which is the fourth option under Basic Shapes, and click anywhere. I want this to have no outline, and for the fill colour, I'll choose a slightly darker variation, such as this. Now we can zoom in a bit using Control and the mouse wheel, and then, while holding down Shift, click on the corner circle and drag. I also want to rotate this, so I'll hold down Shift while clicking on the circle at the top, rotate it round to the right. Then I can position it where I want and hold down Shift to drag it in fully. And now I can click on this vertical middle point and drag it out until it's touching the side. And then when we look at that full screen, it gives a really nice effect. To make the next one, I can Control and the mouse wheel to zoom out slightly, hold down Control and Shift while dragging it, put it into the position I want it, then go to Arrange, Rotate and choose Flip Horizontal. Now, when we view the slide full screen, it will give a nice depth effect just by using some basic shapes. And if we want to reveal these with animation, we could click on it, go to Animations and choose something like Fly In. I'll select Fly In for that one as well. And for these corner parts, I can fade them in and set it to start after previous. So after this center panel flies in, the triangles fade up at the bottom, then add a fly in for this last one. And if I click to reveal the animation pane, I can select multiple animations. The third one's currently selected. I can hold down Control and click on number 2 and then number 1, right click, Effect Options, and drag this to the right so they've got a smooth end. And I actually want the second of these triangles to come in after the third panel is revealed. So I'll click on it and drag it down So now if we run this, we'll click to reveal the first one, click for the second one and the first corner fades up, and the third one, and then that fades up too. Here is a timeline layout which helps communicate key achievements and progress points of your company. You can highlight key metrics and growth milestones, and you could also share any achievements, customer testimonials, or partnerships you have secured. It's a great way to effectively communicate the company's journey, achievements, and future potential to various audiences. We'll start with this title and subtitle. Now we'll draw in the panels and milestone text. So we'll go to our Shapes menu and choose a rounded rectangle, which is the second option, rectangle, rounded corners. We'll click anywhere. I want this to be 3.8 high by 6.8 wide. I can type that in and press return or tab to go on to the next setting. Now we'll go to Shape Fill and choose a light grey, and Shape Outline and choose No Outline. We'll add our text, click to make sure everything's selected, and change the text colour to a dark blue. I also want to make this size 12, and this part bold and slightly bigger. While it's selected, I also want to click this little yellow dot and drag it to the left to make the corners much less rounded. We can also add some space between this line and the rest of the text by clicking after the semicolon and pressing return. Now I have one panel that looks good. I'll press Ctrl D to duplicate, and Ctrl D again, and Ctrl D again. I'll now quickly add my text and make this 12 point. We'll now add the circles. I can select all these by dragging over them and dragging them out of the way for now. Then go to the drawing panel, choose oval and click anywhere. I want these to be 3 cm by 3 cm with a dark blue shape fill and a white outline. And I want the outline to be 5 point. So I go to Weight, choose More Lines and give it a width of 5 point. You'll see that when we add the line behind. Now while it's still selected, I can click to add the text. 18 point is fine, and I'll also press Ctrl B to make it bold. Now Ctrl D to duplicate again, and type in the New Year's. I'm going to click on each one of these and drag it into position by holding down Shift, and you can see the smart guides will appear when it's in the center. Click on this, hold down Shift and drag. Click on this, hold down Shift and drag. And now they're all in the center of the panels below. I'm going to draw a line across the middle, so we'll click and then choose this second one here, which is a line arrow. Click on this circle that appears in the middle, hold down Shift and drag all the way across to here. I'm going to make this 5 point as well. Dark blue, right click and center back. That's looking good. I'm now going to add the triangles. So we'll go to the Shapes menu again. Choose Isosceles Triangle, click anywhere. The shape fill is correct. The shape outline I want to be none. I want to make this a lot smaller, so I'll hold down Shift while dragging on the corner. And I can put this in position just by dragging and waiting till the smart guides appear. Ctrl D and drag it into position for this one. Then Ctrl D, drag it into position for this one, but I also want this one to be the other way around and point down. To do that, we can either click on this circle and hold down Shift and drag it round, or you can go to Rotate and choose Flip Vertical. Ctrl D, drag it into position, and let go when the smart guides appear and it looks right. I'm now going to move the panels into position. These first two will move up. So I'll select one, hold down Shift, select the other one, and while Shift is held down, drag these up. That looks good. And the same for these ones, but they'll go all the way above here, and we're going to move all this down in a second. Now we can select everything except the title by holding down Shift and clicking to deselect the title, and the same for the subtitle. Now if we hold down Shift and drag down, everything will move correctly. I'm also going to move the subtitle up very slightly, so it looks nicely spaced out. I think that looks really nice, but we can also add some animation. When adding animation, I like it to support the content that I'm presenting. So for example, I can click on this line, go to Animations, choose Wipe, Effect Options from left, and for these circles, I could choose something like a zoom from the center. These arrows I could change to a float in, but make sure that I reverse the direction so it floats down, and then a fade in for these panels. And I will want this to happen after previous, so I click on it and choose Start After Previous in the timing section, and then the same for this. So now when we run this, a click will reveal the line, then the year will zoom out, the arrow will move down, and the panel will fade in. I'll just quickly add those for the other three. So zoom for that, float in, making sure that that one's after previous, and fade after previous. This one has a float down option rather than float up. So now when we run that, the line will go from left to right, and then each year will fade in on a click, with the relevant information fading on afterwards. If there are a lot of points along a timeline, or you have too much information to neatly fit on one slide, there is a neat technique you can use using the morph animation. So firstly, we'll duplicate this content and move it to the right. Control and the mouse wheel will allow us to zoom out. I'm going to select everything by clicking and dragging over it, and then hold down Shift and click on the line because we don't want to make a copy of that. Now if I hold down Control and Shift and drag to the right, we can make a copy of everything. And I want this to be just off the slide, and now we can let go of the mouse. So I want to extend this line all the way past the end circle. If we click on that, hold down Shift and drag to the right. Now I can change the text of these years, and then change my text in the boxes below and above. And I'll just quickly paste in the text to do that here to save time. Now because we've copied these, I want to remove the animations just from these ones over on the right, because we only want these to animate on. So if we click on Animation Pane, I want to get rid of everything from 6 onwards. And to do that, we can click on the 6 here, hold down Shift and select the last one, and then press Delete. Now we can go to the thumbnails, Control D to make a duplicate of the slide. I'll use Control and the mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit. And on this second slide, we want all the animations to be removed. So as before, we'll click on the first one, hold down Shift, click on the last one, and then press Delete. So on the second slides, there are no animations, and it will all be handled by the transition, which we'll set to morph. So we'll go to Transitions, and then choose Morph. So on the second slide, we'll select all of this, hold down Shift, and drag it across. We'll let go of it there. And now when we play from slide 1, it will reveal the first elements that we have the animation set on as we click. And then as we go to the next slide, it will move everything across. And if we want to go back, we can just go back one slide and it will smoothly transition across. Again, if we want to go forward, we can do that. So just by creating these two slides and setting the transition to morph, we can get this really nice effect that makes it look like one continual. Here is a slide layout that can be used in a variety of situations in business presentations. Divide your information up into easily understandable and digestible sections of similar sizes, and then add icons to help the viewer identify each section and add some impact. It could be company values, product features, a target market pain point slide, your solution, or unique value proposition. So we'll start off with just the title and subtitle, and then the first thing we'll do is add a rounded corner rectangle by going to Drawing and choosing this second option here with Rectangle Rounded Corners. We can click anywhere, click on the little yellow dot and drag it to the left to reduce how rounded the corners are, then set this to have no outline and a fill of a light grey colour. I want this to be 6.5 high by 5.5 wide, and now I can add the text. I'm just going to paste it in to save time, and then set the font to Inter, choose dark blue for the colour, set the text down to 12 point, select this and choose bold and make this bit 16. I also want to adjust the margins so there's plenty of space to add the icons at the top in the circles. And to do that, we right click, go to Format Shape, choose Text Options, and then Text Box, and then we can adjust these margins. I'm going to set the top to 1.6. Now I can add a blue circle at the top, and to do that, again we go to Drawing and choose Oval. If it's in your recently used shapes, you can just click there and click anywhere. I want this to be 3.8 high by 3.8 wide, and under Shape Options, I'm going to set it to a solid line, make it white, and choose 4 point. Now we can drag it into position, and I want it to be in the center and as high as you think looks good, which is about there. Now I can select this by clicking, holding down my mouse and dragging over the top, adjusting it roughly to the position I want it to be in, Control D to duplicate, then Control D 3 more times, and it will space it perfectly across your slide. To make sure everything's exactly in the middle, we can select it all, Control G to group, and then go to Arrange, Align Center. Now Control Shift G to ungroup, and then we can add the icons. We'll go to Insert, Icons, and when we add these, we want to make sure they're a similar format each time. So if I select this first one and click Insert, I can now drag that into position, go to Graphics Fill and choose White. And because I've chosen an outline rather than a filled in or other type of format for my icon, I want to keep that similar for the other 5. So I'll make sure the icon's selected, hold down Control and Shift and drag, and from here we can just change the icon. We can right click, change graphic from icons and type in whatever we want. Double clicking will change it. Control and Shift to drag into position. Right click, change graphic from icons. So I'll now just quickly paste in the text for the other 4 boxes. So now we have all of our text in, which looks really good, but we can also, as an alternative, use colours from the Themes colour palette. Just by clicking, going to Shape Fill, choosing any colour from here. By holding down Shift and dragging to left and right, you can make sure these are all centre aligned. Finally, we can add some simple animation. And to make the animation as simple as possible, I would group these circles and icons as one object each, and to do that, we can just click off them, drag over and press Ctrl G on each one. And for each of these, I'm going to add a zoom. And for this panel underneath, a float in. By default, it will move up. I'm going to make this happen with previous. And also take down the time so it's the same. If we go to the animation pane, you can see that the zoom is added at ½ second and the float in is added at 1. I'm going to change the duration of the float in so it's the same. Now when we run this, it creates a nice effect that happens. It's quite snappy and it happens at the same time. So I'll just quickly add that to the others. So zoom on this one, then float in on this one, change it to start with previous and give it a 0.5 duration. It's looking good. You can also use the animation painter for this. So if that's selected, I can click on the animation painter and then apply it to that. The same for these panels, and that's good because it will automatically change it to with previous and duration, as that is where I'm copying the animation from. So apply the animation painter to that zoom, then click on the panel and apply it to the next panel. Now when I run that, all the animation will have been copied across. Here is a slide to identify direct and indirect competitors. You could highlight your competitive advantages and key differentiators. Tables are a useful tool for presenting text information and numerical data. They are made up of cells arranged in rows and columns and have a lot of customization options. We're going to start with the basic table and then edit and make changes to move away from the standard look you see in many PowerPoint presentations. So we'll start with the standard table. This can be added simply by going to Insert, Table, and then choosing how many rows and columns you want. For example, in mine, I had 6 columns and 5 rows. So you'd click on this, move to something like this, and then click again. From here, you can type in your text into the rows and columns. So I'm just going to delete this and use my example that I've got here where I've already added the text. If we click and make sure that the entire table is selected, I can go to Layout and just make some basic changes. For example, centering everything vertically. And I'm also going to make these have blue text. So I can go to the text option and choose this dark blue. And if I select these ones by clicking and dragging, I'm going to align this text to the right. While it's still selected, I'm going to change the font to Inter and fill it all with a very light grey. And then go to Table Design, choose 6 point, a white pen colour, and then go to Borders and select all borders. And this will add a 6-point border to all the cells because we've selected everything. I'm going to click here and drag this down to the bottom to enlarge it. Then click on this cell and drag up. I'm going to set this to no fill. I'm going to center all of these. Again, we click on any cell and drag across to select the ones we want. Center this text. And to highlight the Our Solution column, I'm going to click here, drag to the top, change this shape fill to this blue color, and then change the text to white. For these, I'm going to click and drag, and again, select No Fill. If we want to draw attention to some of these differences, such as when it says yes here, I can change those to a different color, such as the light blue. Double-clicking will select a single word. So by making some quick and easy changes, we've already made a better looking table. In comparison with the default table that we started with, this is much easier to see the key points and to draw attention to the Our Solutions section against the competitors. But we can still go a bit further to make a more unique and professional version. So now we can click, drag across all of these, and press delete to get rid of the text. Then I can add a small circle by clicking oval and clicking here. I want this to be filled in with white, so I'll go shape fill, white, shape outline, no outline. Then size it down so it's about the right size by holding down shift and dragging from the corner. Now I want to add a tick to it, so I can go insert, icons and type tick. And I want to make this blue. Hold down shift and drag it to make it smaller. Control and the mouse wheel to zoom in. And we can align this by holding down shift, clicking on the circle, then going to arrange, align, align center, arrange, align, align middle. And then Control G to group. I can zoom back out. I can then use Control D to duplicate this and put it in the right position. And Control D again for everywhere that I want this. And for this one here, I'm going to press Control Shift G to ungroup. Click on the tick to delete it. And then add in a text box. So you can put in multiple ones of these if you want. And then hit bold. Change it to Inter font. And align it. Then change the color to the light blue. If we go to Insert, Icons, type cross, we can add this one in, and I want to make this the same size. So I'm going to drag it over there and resize it and then move it slightly just to make sure it's the right size. That looks pretty good. And then drag it back and make it the dark blue color. I can now duplicate this. Control D again. The bottom one, that will be the pounds one, so I'll duplicate that from here by clicking the pound sign, holding down shift, then while holding down Control and Shift, dragging it across, selecting the circle and choosing the dark blue color, then selecting the pound sign and changing it to white, typing in another one if we want to, then I can hold down Control and Shift while dragging out from the center point, and then hold down shift and drag this across until it's in the right position. We can use the cursor keys for some fine adjustment if we want. This one here, I'm going to change to a tick. So I can click on this one, Control Shift and drag it across. And then I'm going to change the circle to the light blue color and click on that and change the tick to white. Now we have all the different options we need and we can just copy them across as needed. So for example, I could select all of these and then copy them across to here by holding down Control and Shift and dragging. I could do this again for competitor 3 and then competitor 4 and then make any changes that I wanted to. For example, I might change this back just to £1 sign, use the cursor keys for some fine adjustment and click on the circle and change that to the light blue color. And then if we want any of these to be different, we can just hold down shift and move them around like this. And we could also use logos rather than just the company names. So if I click here and drag to the right, I can then click delete. And if you want to get high quality versions of any company logos, you can normally search for the SVG and download it directly from the internet. So for example, I could type Starbucks logo SVG. The first result that comes up is here. Then we can click on original file, which is the SVG, right click, save as. And wherever you've saved it from, in my case, the desktop, I can go to insert pictures, this device, double click, and this will add in a high quality vector, which could be sized to any size and even recolored if you need to. So I'll click on the corner and drag to make this smaller and then position it here. I'm just using famous companies as an example to show you how you can easily get company logos into something like this feature comparison. So SVG is usually the best thing to search for, as you can normally click on it and then right-click and Save As to download. Insert picture from this device and click on the logo and size it down by dragging from the corner. I'll just quickly add in the last two. Now we have all the logos in, it's looking really good. For one final stage, I'll show you how you can animate these to reveal on a click. So firstly, I'd like to group these. So I'll select this end column and Ctrl G to group, and then do this for the others. Ctrl G each time. Then I can click on the first one, hold down Shift and click on the subsequent ones that I want to reveal in that order. Then go to Animations and choose Fade on click. So when I run that, we'll start with an empty table and I can click to reveal them all. You can adjust those to come up in any order you want by going to the animation pane and changing the order of anything. You can see from the tooltips which order they would come in. So for example, if you wanted to start with your solution first, you could drag 5 to the top and it would change to number 1. And then if you wanted to go from left to right, you could drag these into different orders. I've now changed it to make these in the blue panels come up first and then left to right. I think this is a much more powerful visual way to reveal these comparisons than just using a basic table. Key data point slides are essential components of presentations, often used to highlight critical information, statistics, and metrics. When designing key data point slides, it's crucial to focus on clarity, visual appeal, and relevance to ensure that the data effectively communicates the intended message. You can use pie charts to add impact to key points of data, especially when showing percentage values. And to do that, we can go to Insert, Chart, Pie, and choose this option here, Donut Chart. For these examples, we're just going to use 2 data points. So in this example, I'll write 60, 40, and for these last 2, we don't need them, so I'm going to select them and press Delete. Now we can close this. We don't need the chart title, so we can click on that and press Delete. And the same for the key or legend at the bottom, so we click on that, make sure it's selected, and press Delete. Now I can size this down by dragging the corner. We can position this where we want it. We can change the size of the hole in the middle of the donut by going to Format Data Series and adjusting this. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, 65. Now I want to add data labels. And to do that, while it's selected, we can go to this plus box and choose Data Labels. I don't need the one that says 40, I'm just going to use the one that says 60. So I'll click on 40, press Delete. The 61 I'm going to drag into the middle. I don't need this line, so I'll also click on that and press Delete. Now I can format this text. I'm going to make it into black and size 32 point. I also want to add a percentage sign, so I can click there and add that, and then drag this out and position it in the center. I also want to make this the same blue color, which is this one here. And this darker blue part on the left, I want to make just grey. And to do that, we make sure that the donut pie is selected, then click again just to select this part over here, and we can make this any color we want. Now I'm going to add a text box underneath and quickly paste in the text and format it exactly as I want it. And I want this to be Inter, 16 point, center a line to the box, dragged until the smart guides appear, and it's positioned perfectly in the center underneath the pie chart. I'll now move these a little bit to the left, so I'll make sure they're both selected by first clicking on the chart, holding down Shift, clicking on the text, and then holding down Shift to drag this over to the left. Control D will now duplicate, and I can position these where I want. Control D and Control D again. I can now select all of these, hold down Shift and drag them across to center it. And now we can make changes to the other three. So if I edit this data, I can change this to whatever I want, such as 40 and 60. I will have to drag this back to the position I want it in, because PowerPoint will reset the position of this as a data label each time we change the data. And now I can change the color of this, making sure that we've selected the individual piece we want to change, because if we don't, it will change the whole thing, such as this. So you want to make sure that it's selected, and then you want to click again just to select that piece, and then select the color. You can now change the text as well. And I'll just quickly edit these ones as well. And change the text underneath them. So now we have a really nice looking slide with 4 key data points. And as these are still in PowerPoint's graph format, they can be easily changed to any data at any point. Now let's look at a design variation for these to give your pie charts a different look while remaining professional and clear. So here we're going to move away from the standard styles to create something more unique. So we'll click on this and choose donut size 0 for this one. So we're just going to have a circle. I'm now going to select the left side of this and give it no fill. And the right size, I'm going to make black and 80% transparent. So I can click on it, make sure it's selected, go to fill, change it to black, then 80%. I'm now going to add a coloured circle behind there. So I can click anywhere to add this, set it to have no outline. It's already the right colour, drag it into position, then size it up to the size I want, which is about that. I can make sure these are perfectly aligned by making sure the first is selected and then shift clicking to select the second one and going to arrange, align, align middle. Now I can right click and choose center back. I'm now going to make the data label white text so we can see it and align that. Now just to get rid of the gap, we can go to shape outline and select no outline. With it all selected, I can also make sure that it's aligned to the center as well as the vertical middle. So now we have a perfectly aligned graph that's really easy to change and make these other variations. So I can click on these and press delete. Select the graph that I've got, Control D to duplicate, drag it into position, Control D and Control D. Then we can just edit our data by right clicking and choosing Edit Data. Set it to whatever we want. Drag this back into position. Change the color of the circle. For that, we can send this to back. Change the color of the circle to whatever color we want. In this case, the green. Right click, send that to back. I'll just quickly do these other two. You can close the graph box first, then right click on this, edit data. Add in the amounts we want for our data point, which is 80 on this one. Close this, drag the data label into position. Right click and choose center back for this, and then change the color of the circle to whatever we want. and then right click and center back on that. Now we have our 4 data points in our new style, we can add some simple animation. For this, we could group each one of these. So we can click to drag over these and make sure all 3 are selected, thus the graph, the circle and the text. Control G to group, then go to animations and something like fly in. I'll just quickly do that for these others. Control G to group, fly in. Control G to group, each time making sure that all 3 elements are selected. Control G. Now I can go to animation pane, click on the first one, hold down Shift and select the last, right click effect options and drag this across to give them all a smooth end. And now we have a nice way of revealing these data points as they're talked about by simply clicking to fly them into place. Here we'll look at a market opportunity slide, which is also called a TAM, SAM, SOM slide. It's commonly used in business presentations, particularly pitch decks for companies seeking investment. I will use generic text on the left, but you should include personalized information to show that you understand your market size at different levels, which could help investors and stakeholders gauge potential revenue and growth. So we'll start with just the title and subtitle. And the first thing we'll do is draw 3 circles and align them over the top of each other. So from the drawing menu, we'll click Oval, and if we hold down Shift and then hold down the mouse button and drag, it will keep it a perfect circle. I'm going to choose a dark blue for this one and no outline. I also want to select a line and choose a line center. I can hold down Shift and drag it up, and now we can add the other 2. So we can either draw another circle or select this one and press Ctrl D to duplicate, change its color to whichever color we want, then hold down Shift as we size down. These circles don't have to accurately represent the underlying figures, but they can be sized to allow maximum clarity and impact and still relative to the figures involved. So I can now move this into the center, Ctrl D to duplicate and make a 3rd circle. Again, hold down Shift while dragging the corner and align that to the center. Now I'm going to align the 2 smaller circles to the bigger circle. So I'll click on the first one, hold down Shift, click on the second, and the bigger circle behind, then go to Arrange, Align, and choose Align Bottom. If you haven't already aligned these to the center, you can also do Arrange, Align Center at this point. I'm also going to move these to the right, so I can hold down Shift while they're all selected and drag them over to here. We can now add labels to these, so we'll click on Text Box, click and drag around here to add our label, and then type in our details. I'm going to make this text white using the font Inter. Align the text to the center. For this TAM, I want it to be size 16. So I'll select it and size it down. And for this, I want it to be 32 point and using the black variation of the Inter font. We'll click and drag to size this up and then align it to the center. This now looks really clear. It's a good idea to use contrasting sizes and font variations as it can help focus the audience's attention on your key figures. So now that this one's in the correct format, I can select it, hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag down and change the text for this part. And the same again for the bottom. Now we can add the 3 circles over to the left and their description text. So we'll click on Oval, click anywhere. We can either make this the dark blue from here and select No Outline, or you can select Eyedropper and select it from here. I'll now change this font to Inter and set it one size down. I also want it to be bold, so either click here or press Ctrl B. Drag this into position. Now let's add the text box next to it. We can click and drag this down slightly. That's about right. And now we have a good look for the text and the circle. We can click to select the circle, hold down Shift to select the text as well, Control D to duplicate, drag it into the position you want, and make sure that the smart guides appear so you know it's perfectly aligned underneath. Then let go and Control D will put another copy in exactly the right place. I can now change the colours of these. Again, we can do that by choosing the eyedropper tool and selecting this. And just quickly paste in our text. This now looks good. Finally, we can add some animation. So firstly, I want to group these elements, so I can select them, Control G to group, Control G to group, Control G to group. The same for these. Holding down Shift will allow you to select both of them, then Control G to group and center back. As when you group anything, the group will automatically be brought to the front. We want to make sure the blue one's right at the back, so we'll do center back on that, and then Control G on this final one. Now we have everything grouped correctly, we can add the animation. For these, we can go to Animations and choose Fly In. Make sure that we select from left, so that looks really good with this information coming in from that side. And then to add a zoom with previous. So this text will fly in from the left on a click, at the same time as this will zoom up. We'll do the same for these two. Fly in, from left, zoom with previous, and then the final one. Now when we play that, we can click to reveal each of the parts. Here is a flexible layout to show a high-level overview of your product or service. Your audience may not share your level of expertise, so keep things simple and precise and explain key features and functionalities. Always try to showcase any unique selling points or competitive advantages. Firstly, we'll put a graphical depiction of your product or service in the center of the slide. In this example, I'm going to use a phone with the software interface inside it and call out the features of that. So I'm just going to add the phone image from this device. And I've just downloaded this from the Apple site and click Insert. We can now make this a bit smaller by clicking and dragging on the corner point. We can now align that to the center by going to Align and choosing Align Center, then holding down Shift and dragging it up a bit. I'm now going to add the image I want inside it, which in this case is a picture of an interface I'm just going to use as an example. I'm going to size this down and move it out of the way because the first thing I want to do is fill in the phone background with the same color as the part of the UI I'm going to use. And for that, I'm going to select a rounded corner rectangle, click, hold the mouse down and drag, and then we're going to make adjustments so we fill this entire phone by clicking on each of the points and dragging it out. We can reduce the roundness of the corners of this blue panel slightly by clicking on this yellow dot and dragging it to the left. That looks good. I'm now going to use the eyedropper. So under the Shape Fill Color menu, we can select eyedropper and I can roll over this grey here, which will be the part of the UI that I'm going to use. And when I click, and now we can right click and choose Center Back, then drag this in. I'm actually going to crop this by right clicking, choosing Crop, as I only want this part here. We can click on these black bars and drag down until the area we want is selected. So I've now got this. I can move this into position, and I also want to size it up. And to do that, we click on the bottom right-hand corner, drag down, and then I'm going to crop in. So right-click, crop, and then drag this point, ideally until it's exactly in the right place. You can use Alt to have a fine adjustment. I also want to crop it so it has rounded corners, so it will fit in nicely at the bottom. And to do that, we can go to Picture Format, crop up the top here, and choose Crop to Shape, and make sure you select this rounded corner rectangle. Now you can adjust the roundness of the corners at the bottom so it fits in nicely. Now I just want to make the phone bezel come to the front, so we can right-click on that and choose Bring to Front. Now everything looks correct. Now we can add the information panels. So I can click on a rounded corner rectangle, click and drag, and put it about here. I can drag this to the left to make it less rounded, fill it in with the colour I want, such as this blue, set outline to no outline, and then type in the text. I've quickly pasted it in to save time, and then I'm going to set it to Inter, down to 12, and make this bit bold, and 14. Now we can click on Line, position it here where this circle appears, which is halfway up. Then you can hold down Shift to keep it straight and drag it to where you want it to be. I want this colour to be the same colour as the box, so I can click here. And then if we right click and choose Format Shape, we can set the end arrow type to this last option, which is oval arrow, and the end arrow size to this last option here. Now we can duplicate the one we've created by clicking and dragging over it, pressing Ctrl D, dragging it into position where the smart guides appear, and then pressing Ctrl D. Now we can select all of these, press Ctrl D again, and drag them into position. We can now set these to have no end arrow and a beginning arrow of the oval, then drag it across by holding down Shift and dropping it at exactly the right point here. We also want to select the beginning arrow size to make it the large one, the same as the other side. If you want to center all of these, we can select all of the panels, press Ctrl G to group, then go to Arrange, Align and Align Center, and that will center everything perfectly on the page. Now we can Ctrl Shift G will ungroup. Now we can change the text for the other 5 boxes. And to save time, I'm just going to cut and paste it in. Now we have all the correct text. We'll shut this panel down. We can group this box and the line individually. Ctrl G to group, and do that for all of these 6 items. To get these to fade up in a certain order, we can select them in the order we want, holding down Shift after the first click. Then going to Animations and choosing Fade and Start on Click. Now when we run this, we can click to reveal each of the elements that we're drawing attention to. As a variation, we could use a physical product. So if we deleted this, we could go to Insert, and I'm just going to choose an example from the stock library. Such as this here. We can right click, choose Center Back, Control on the mouse wheel to zoom out slightly, and size it up from the center by holding down Control and Shift. And now, if you want to adjust where the circles go to, we can click once to select the group, click again on the line to select that, then very carefully rolling over the white outlined circle that's part of the line as opposed to the group, which is just here. Hold down Shift and drag it to the left. We can do the same for this. Click once on the group, click a second time on the line, roll over until you're on that outline that is part of the line with the blue circle on, hold down Shift, click and drag to the left. So by doing that, we can put these anywhere we want. Just keep remembering to click a second time and roll over the correct place before you hold down Shift and adjust the line. This gives you a flexible way of highlighting features on your product. Incorporating maps into a business presentation makes geographical data more accessible and easy to understand. It also enhances the overall impact. These can be used to show regional office locations, customer markets, or supply lines, for example. You can easily create a map directly in PowerPoint using the integrated world map chart type. So we'll start with the title and subtitle, and then go to Insert, Chart, and from this list we'll select Map and click OK. This is the default world map that PowerPoint will pre-fill with some data, so any country that has specific data against it will be highlighted. For example, if I selected all of this data and pressed delete, only the United States would stay highlighted. In my example, I don't need any of the countries highlighted, so I'm just going to also delete this data as well, and that will leave the whole world map. I also don't want this series key, so I'll click to make sure that's selected and then press delete. We can now close this window, and I'm going to drag this down. I don't need the chart title, so I can click on that and delete it. And we can size this up by dragging on the corner point while holding Ctrl and Shift, and then dragging down to put the map exactly where we want it. So Ctrl and Shift to resize, and drag to position where we want it. That looks about right in the vertical position. I'll also hold down Shift and drag it across a bit so it looks centered to me. That looks good. If you click on the map and make sure it's selected, you can recolor it any color you want. I'm going to stick with this mid-grey color and then add some circles to highlight the data over the top. So we'll go to the drawing menu and choose oval. A single click will give us a perfect circle, and we can scale this up while keeping a perfect circle by holding down Shift and dragging from the corner. I'm going to drag this here, as it will be for North America. Right click, format shape, and then set the line to 1.5 and make it white. I'm also going to add a shadow, and to do that we can go to Effects here, Shadow, and I'll just select the second preset in Outer, which is Offset Bottom. I also want it to be a bit more subtle, so I'll increase the transparency up to 80%. Just type in 80 into the box. Now we can type in our text. And then format our text. I want this to be 14 point, so I'll go Home, 14, and I want this to be 24, so I can type 24. And if I click on the corner, it will select everything, and I will change that to the font Inter. We can now go to Text Options, Text Box, and turn off Wrap Text in Shape. So that's getting close. I want the 70 million to be Inter Black. So I'm just going to choose Inter Black for that. And I'm going to make the circle very slightly bigger, so holding Ctrl and Shift and dragging. That looks good. We can now duplicate it to easily make the others. So Ctrl D, drag it to where we want for Europe in this example. Type in our text, and then change the color to whichever color we want. Just going to quickly add in the other three. Ctrl D to duplicate each time. We can now add some simple animation, for example, for these to zoom up one at a time as you click. So if you select the first one you want to appear, and then each subsequent one while holding down Shift, they will appear in the order I've clicked on here. So now we can go to Animations, choose Zoom, on click. Now when we run this, they'll come up in that order. If you want to change this order, you can go to Animation pane and drag any one of these to the order you want it to appear in, and in these small tooltips, it will tell you which order it is. PowerPoint maps will adapt to your data. For example, if you are only interested in European countries, the world map will become a map of Europe. So I've changed my title to Impressive Reach Across Europe. I can now click on our map that we've got and choose Edit Data. If I select all these and press Delete, I can then go to the top row and type in the first country that I want added, and then the next. And these are the ones that we're going to be highlighting. So I'm going to type out each one of them so we can select them. Now we can close. I can drag this map up here and make it bigger by holding the corner point and dragging. Now we can recolor each country, so I can click on the map, click on the UK, then go to Shape Fill and choose any color I want. And then the same for any other country, such as France here. Choose the color for that. I'm just going to quickly add a block of text to the left to show the information for this slide. I'm now going to make the map a little larger to get rid of this country here that's covering the title. Now we can add in our key data points, and for this I'm going to draw a circle for each one. So we click on Oval, click anywhere for a perfect circle, type in our key data point, which I'm going to make 28 points and enter black. I also want to go to Format Shape, Text Options, Text Box, and make sure that Wrap Text in Shape is turned off. I'm going to set the outline to white, Shape Fill to black, and under Shape Options, I'm going to go to Fill and adjust the transparency. Something like 70% would do. Make it a bit bigger by holding down Ctrl and Shift and dragging the corner, and then drag it into position. Now Ctrl D, and then we can drag them into the new position and change the data as we wish. So now we have the key data. That looks really good. So we could add some more information about these different countries. And to save time, I'm just going to cut and paste it in. And I just want to move everything across slightly to the left. So I can click and drag to select all the elements I put on the page, and hold down Shift to make sure that the map is also selected. Then hold down Shift and drag to the left. That's about right. We can just finally add some animation so that each of these points is brought out on a click. To do that, we can click on the text, hold down Shift and click on the key data point, and then press Ctrl G to group. We can do that for each one. Then if we want them to come out on a click, we can click on the first one, then hold down Shift and then each subsequent one, go to Animations, Fade, and next to Start we can choose it on click, and now when we run that, each one will come out on a click. Here is a visual representation of a sales funnel which can be used to illustrate the journey a potential customer goes through from the initial awareness of a product or service to the final purchase. It breaks down the sales process into distinct stages, helping businesses understand and optimize how they attract, engage, and convert leads. So we'll start with some smart art of a pyramid. And to get that, we'll go to Insert, Smart Art, Pyramid. And we'll choose the one pointing down, an inverted pyramid, and click OK. We can now drag this to the size we want, make it the width we want, and put it in the position we want. I also want it to have more stages, so to do that, under the Smart Art section in the ribbon, we can click Add Shape. In this example of the funnel, I want to be able to customize these shapes more than I can do in the Smart Art, and to do that, I'm going to cut and paste it as an SVG, which will allow me to break it up into PowerPoint shapes. So to do that, from the Home menu, we can choose Cut or press Ctrl X, and then instead of just pasting it back by pressing Ctrl V, we go to Paste Special. If I just clicked OK now, it would basically just paste it back in exactly the same Smart Art format that we cut, but I want to choose SVG, which stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, which basically means we can break it up into PowerPoint shapes. So to do that, we can go to Group, Ungroup, click Yes, and then the same again, Group, Ungroup. Now, all of these are individual shapes, and I just want to delete the bottom two, so I can click on this one, hold down Shift, click on the bottom one, and press Delete. Now let's format these. I'm going to select them all, go to Shape Outline, and select a 6-point white outline, making sure that Shape Outline is set to white. Now I can colour them into different colours. So I'll choose the blue for this one. Now we can size them up as we want to. So I'll press Ctrl G to group them all, and just drag this and drag this so it's the size I want it to be. That's about right. So we can ungroup that by either right clicking and choosing Group, Ungroup, or Shift Ctrl G. We can now add our text and numbers, which we can do in a text box. I'll click and drag, type in our text and our number. I'm going to make this 16 into font and white. Then the number, I'm going to select just that, make it 36 and into black. I also want to center the whole lot, and to do that, you can press Ctrl E or click this center option in the paragraph section. I also want to center align it on this shape, and to do that, while it's selected, we hold down Shift, click on the shape to select it, then go to Arrange, Align, Align Center. Now we've got our text correctly formatted, I can use Ctrl D to duplicate it. So make sure it's selected, press Ctrl D and drag it into position. Then Ctrl D and Ctrl D again. I can now type in my other text. And I think that looks really good. Using different font variations, such as the black version for very bold fonts when you're using key data points, can be a really powerful way of showing your information. Now we can add some text panels for each for some further information. For that, we're going to use a rounded corner rectangle. And I'm going to make this slightly less rounded by dragging the yellow dot to the left. And also quite a soft grey and no outline. So shape fill, I'll choose this soft grey, and shape outline, none. I also want to make sure it's vertically aligned with this blue section, and to do that we can just click and drag it down until the smart guides appear in the centre and then let go. Alternatively, we could hold down Shift, click on this, and go to Arrange, Align, and Align Middle. Now we can add a line with a dot, so we can click on the line from the drawing menu. If it's not in your recent shapes, it will always be this option here, line. We can click there, hold down Shift to keep a straight line, and drop it about there. I'm going to make this the same colour as the panel it's connected to. For that, you can either select the same colour from the theme, or go to eyedropper and click on it to get its color. Now we can right click on this line, format shape, go to end arrow type and select oval arrow, and then end arrow size and choose the largest one. Now we can add our text to this box, so we can click on it, make sure it's selected, and then type straight in. I'm just going to paste mine in to save time. And for this text, I'm going to choose a dark blue color, size 12, and the font Inter. Then we go to text options, text box, set our left margin to where we want it, which is about there, and then align the text to the left, which we can do in this paragraph section here, or press Ctrl L. That looks good. We can now use Ctrl D to duplicate it to create the others. So we'll make sure both are selected, either by clicking and dragging over, or having one selected and holding down Shift, and then press Ctrl D. Again, we'll drag it into position, Ctrl D and Ctrl D again. Now we can extend these lines, holding down Shift each time to drag them into the right position, and then we'll change the colours to make them match. So shape outline, and we'll just use the eyedropper to easily take the colour from the panel they're connected to. That looks good. We can make sure they're vertically centered on these panels here by clicking on the line, holding down Shift and clicking on the panel, then clicking on this blue panel and going to Arrange, Align Middle. Now we can change the text for the other boxes, and to save time, I'm just going to cut and paste it in. That all looks good. Finally, we can add some simple animation to really bring the slide to life. And so I'm going to select the text and the panel, press Ctrl G to group on all these four. Each time I'm clicking and dragging over to make sure I've selected both of them. Ctrl G to group, Ctrl G to group. Same for these, which is the panel here and the line, Ctrl G to group. Now we can click on this, go to Animations and choose Fly In. Click on this and choose Fade, and in the Start option under Timing, choose After Previous. We can now choose the animations for these, or simply copy the animations across. For example, while this is selected, we could go to Animation Painter and then click on this one, and it will apply the same animation. The same would apply here. We could click on the panel, click on Animation Painter, and then click on that. Or you can simply click on the animations in the animation section again to add them. So Fly In, Fade, After Previous, Fly In, Fade, and After Previous. On all the fly-ins, I want to give it a smooth end, which I think looks better in this animation. And to do that, we can go to Animation Pane. I can select 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are the fly-ins. And to do that, you select the first one, and then you hold down Control and select the subsequent ones, right-click, Effect Options, and then drag the smooth end slider all the way across. And while they're selected, I'm also going to slow them down slightly to 1 second, which I think looks about right for this. Now when we run the slide, a nice way of bringing up this key information in this sales funnel style, started from Smart Art and then converted into PowerPoint shapes, giving you a very powerful and impactful slide. This structure provides a clear, concise overview of a generic business process, making it easy for the audience to follow. It is often necessary to simplify complex workflows to improve clarity and enhance understanding. So we're going to start by adding an arrow that is a chevron, and to do that we can go to the drawing menu, go down to arrows and select this option here, chevron. We can click anywhere, and then in the height section I'm going to choose 7 centimeters, and for the width 10.5. Now we want to add an isosceles triangle, and for that we can click home, go onto the drawing menu, Choose this third option here in basic shapes, isosceles triangle, and click anywhere. I want this to be 3.5 centimeters high, which is half of the height of the chevron. For that, I need to right click, go to Format Shape, and under Size and Properties, I need to make sure this Lock Aspect Ratio box is selected, and then I can type in the height, 3.5. Now we want to flip this vertically, so we'll go to Rotate and choose Flip Vertical, and I want to align it to the top left of the chevron, so I'll click and drag until it snaps into place. Now we want to adjust the chevron with a little yellow dot, so I'll drag it out until it's perfectly over the top of the triangle, which is just about there. We can now click on the triangle and choose Shape Outline None, and I want this to have a slight gradient, so I'll select Gradient Fill, and there I've just selected on the second point -25 brightness. To add and remove points to this, you can click anywhere or click and drag up or down. You can also use plus or X there. Clicking on each of these points allows you to make adjustments to it. I'll also select No Outline for this, so I'll click on it, go to Shape Outline and choose No Outline. We can now add Stage 1 into our triangle, so I'll click on the text box, type Stage, press Return and 1. I want this to be Inter, Centered and White. We'll drag it over here. The smart guides will appear so that we know it's in the center of the triangle, and I want to make this text a little bit smaller, 16 will be fine, and this a little bit bigger, 24. I also want it all to be bold. We're now going to add an icon onto this main box, so we'll go to Insert, Icons, type Map, click on this and click Insert. I want this to be white, so I'll go to Graphics Fill and choose White, then drag it into position. We can now add the text beneath by clicking, dragging and typing our text. I can now align the icon with this. We're going to add some room below so that we can add in some additional information. For example, various tasks associated with each stage. So I can click, drag across, Ctrl G to group. I'm going to move this out the way and up a bit. Now we'll add the text below. We'll click on our text box, drag it out here, and I'm just going to paste it in to save time. And now I can drag it up into position. If I click, drag over to select everything and press Ctrl G, I have it grouped as one element that I can move around. Now I can press Ctrl D and position another one exactly where I want it, and Ctrl D again. If I select all of these, I can press Ctrl G and then align them to the center by going Arrange, Align, Align Center. We can now ungroup them again, either by right-clicking and choosing Group, Ungroup, or pressing Ctrl-Shift-G. Now I can change these stage numbers just by clicking on them and then typing. I can change these icons, again by clicking on them, right-click, change graphic from icons. Selecting my icon and clicking Insert. I'll also do that for this one. You can also click this little tooltip to replace your icon and then say See All Icons. Now I can update my text. And update the text below. That looks good, but we also want to recolor stage 2 and stage 3. So I can click on this, then click on the chevron below, then go to Shape Fill and pick my color. And pick the gradient here as the same color. And for this one, and then go to -25% on this right one here, just to give it this darker gradient on this side. And I also want to change the text. And for the third one, I'm going to make it the purple color. The same for this gradient, as before, where we select both colours as the purple. And for the one on the right, I'm going to choose -25% for the brightness, and then change the text below, also to the purple colour. That looks really good. Finally, we'll add some basic animation to add impact to the slide. So we'll ungroup this first. Then we want to make sure all of this is grouped together. If yours isn't, you can always swipe over it and press Ctrl G to group, or right click and choose group. For this, we can go to Animations, choose Fly In, change the effect options to from left, click Animation Pane, and then drag this to give it a smooth end. I'm also going to slow this down very slightly to give it a duration of 1 second, and then I want this to fade in underneath. So I can click Fade on that and go to After Previous. Now when we run it, clicking once will fly this in from the left with a smooth end, and the text will fade in underneath. We'll just apply that to this as well. So this is all grouped together. So we can right click, group, ungroup. We can copy the animation from this one as it's already been set up correctly by clicking on this one, clicking on Animation Painter, and then clicking on this. And again, this one below can just have a fade and after previous. And for this, we just need to ungroup again. So group, ungroup, then we can click on the one we want to copy the animation from, click Animation Painter and click to apply it to that. Then we can click the text below, choose Fade, Start, After Previous. So now we have 3 clicks, one to reveal each stage, and the text will fade in automatically underneath. So now we have a really nice way of showing each stage in this process. Creating effective financial revenue slides for a pitch deck is crucial for impressing potential investors or stakeholders. It can be equally important when reviewing the state of your company internally to show geographical or historical trends. Most people will be used to seeing this kind of information in table form, typically in Excel or other accounting software, so it's sensible not to deviate too much from this format. We can, however, improve the look while remaining clear and informative. We can also reveal parts of your data on a click using simple shapes and the morph transition. So I'll start with this title and subtitle, and I'll just quickly paste in a table from Excel. And this is the typical table format that you'll see either by pasting it in as I've done here, or creating it in PowerPoint in the standard style by going to Insert, Table, and then selecting from here. So I'm going to start by removing the default formatting. I want to make sure the table's selected. I can go to Table Design, select No Borders, go to Shading and choose White. Then from the Font section, choosing Inter. It's important for the font in the table to match the font in the rest of your slides. Often when copying and pasting tables from other applications such as Excel, the font may come across incorrectly, so it's important to check this and change it in PowerPoint if necessary. I'm now going to make this table wider so it takes up more of the page. And to do that, I can click on this center point here, hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag. This will make it equally wider on both sides. And now the table makes more use of the available space on the slide. I'm now going to make the most important content bold. In this case, the total revenue row. So I can just click and drag to select that, and then Ctrl B or press the bold button. And also the income. I want to make this first column a bit wider so that it doesn't wrap on the few rows that have quite a lot of text in them. So we can click here and drag to the right until this doesn't wrap. That now doesn't wrap for any of them, but you can see it's really shortened the width of this column. However, we can just click here to select, drag across the remaining columns, making sure that the first one isn't selected, and then go to Layout and click on this, Distribute Columns. So this will, as it says, distribute the width of the selected columns equally between them. So the ones we've selected here, it will make all the same width. This now looks a lot better as the height of all the rows are equal as well. So now we want to click on one of the small outer circles to make sure the whole table is selected, and I'm just going to add in some vertical lines to separate the years. And to do that, we can go to Table Design, choose Pen Color, select Black, select the pen weight that we want. I'm just going to use 1 point. Then go to Borders and choose Inside Vertical Border. Now when we click off it, you'll see it's added vertical borders in between all of the years. This looks good, but if we want to, we can actually highlight some of these rows. So for example, the row for total revenue, I could select this by clicking and dragging across, go to Shape Fill and select this blue color, and then change the font to white. This now really stands out and really highlights this information. We could do the same for income, blue fill, white text. If we wanted, we could even add blank rows to separate any of this information. So if we click on this row here, we could go to Layout and choose Insert Above. We could also add a row below this one. So Layout, Insert Below for that. Now we've nicely separated each of the sections to make things a bit clearer. Now I'm going to show you an alternative version that uses blocked-in colours for the years. So we could make sure the whole table is selected. At the moment, go to Shape Fill, say No Fill, and for the text, I'm just going to make it all black. I now want to fill in from this row down, the recurring revenue row, all the way to the bottom, so I'll click and drag and make that blue. Shape Fill, blue. I also want to make this text white. I'm going to increase the size of these years and make these blue too. I now want to make these vertical black borders white and thicker. So I'll click on the outside of the table to make sure everything's selected. Go to Table Design, choose 6 point for the line width. Go to Pen Color, choose white, borders, and inside vertical border. We'll redraw these. So now we have a thick white border to separate each of the columns. And if you want to reveal each of these one at a time, as you talk about them, for example on a click, PowerPoint doesn't currently let you animate individual parts of a table, such as the columns, but there is a way to do it using a basic shape and the morph transition. So in this example, we could go to the drawing menu, click on rectangle, click here and drag across the whole thing to cover it. I'd now go to Shape Outline and select None, and Shape Fill and just plain white, or the same color as your background. Now we can go to your slide thumbnails over on the left, Control D to duplicate, Transitions, and choose Morph. Now what we have to do on the subsequent slides is just move this panel off to reveal our data. So I can hold down Shift, which will keep it locked to its Y position, and drag to the right. Now I can just Control D on slide 2 and the same again to reveal each part. Control D, hold down Shift and move the white box across until it reveals your data. You can also use the cursor keys for fine adjustment. Now when we play this from slide 1, we can talk about the data that's going to be presented and click to reveal each year's worth of data to help align your audience with your message. A SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool used to identify factors that can impact the success of a project or business. It helps you identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Put simply, you need to list the things you do well, the areas that could be improved, the opportunities for a stronger competitive position, and finally, areas that could cause you problems. One of the most popular ways to create a SWOT analysis is through a SWOT matrix, comprising of 4 separate squares that create one larger square. Here I will show you how you can use a pie chart and some basic shapes in PowerPoint to make a powerful visual version of this. So we'll start with just the title and subtitle, and then we'll add a pie chart. We'll go to Insert, Chart, and choose Pie, and select Donut. Click OK. We're going to change this to equal points. So for example, we could just put 1, 1, 1, and 1. Now we can close this, click on the title and press Delete on the keyboard to remove that, and the same for the key or legend. We can size this down a bit by clicking in this circle, holding down Ctrl and Shift and dragging in. Hold down Shift and drag this down slightly. Now we can right click, go to Format Chart Area, clicking on the series, clicking on the series options here, and changing the donut hole size to about 60%, and adding a white line that's 6 point. To do that, we go to Fill, go to the border options, and select Solid Line and 6 point. Now we can add a panel behind each of those, and I'm going to use a rounded corner rectangle, which is the second option in rectangles. Click and drag. I want it to be about there, and then make this slightly less rounded by dragging the yellow dot. Set this to have no outline, then we send it to the back by right-clicking on it and choosing Center Back. I'm going to select the eyedropper and pick the colour of the area of the pie that we're in, and then set the transparency to 80%, which you can do in this Format Shape option here. Now we can add in some text. I'm just going to quickly paste that in to save time. Then make sure the whole box is selected by clicking on one of the outer circles and pressing either Ctrl-L or this Align Left button. I also want to go to Text Options, Text Box, and change the left and right margin to 0.5. Then set all the text to black, the font to Inter, and the size to 14. Then I'm going to change the formatting of just the key title to 24 and make it Inter Black. I'm also going to make that the same colour, and I think that looks really good. And now I'll just add a tiny bit of line spacing by again making sure everything's selected, going to the paragraph options in this paragraph section here, this little arrow, and setting spacing to be 3 point after. This basically means that after every return there'll be a 3 point space, which will help space out these key points. We can now press Ctrl D to duplicate, drag it down into position, right click, send to back, and then pick the new colours using the eyedropper tool. We also want to set the transparency for each one, as that will reset when you choose another colour. Then we'll type in our different text and our key points. We can now select both of these by clicking on the first one, holding down Shift and clicking on the second, and then holding down Ctrl, Alt and Shift will make a copy as we drag. Position this in the right place. You can use the cursor keys for some fine adjustment, then right click and send to back, and we'll set the colours in the same way. The only difference we'll do on this one is we'll press Ctrl R or this button here to align the content to the right. If we choose the colour from one of the theme colours up here, it will keep the 80% transparency, but if we choose the eyedropper and pick it, it will reset it to that exact blue colour without any transparency, and so then we can type in 80. So you have two different options for changing the colour. Type in our text. This final one, threats. Select the colour here, then we'll choose it from this menu and enter the key points. And finally, I'm going to add a circle in the middle that says SWOT analysis. So we'll choose oval, click anywhere, that will make a perfect circle. Make sure it's aligned in the middle, Ctrl and Shift to drag out and that will resize it. Cursor keys to fine position it if you want. Shape outline, no outline, and shape fill white. I'm going to choose black text for this. The font Inter Black. And the size 24 point. And then I can type SWOT analysis. You can stop it from wrapping by going to Text Options, turn off Wrap Text in Shape, or you can decrease the left and right margin. And finally, I'm going to add the letters on each segment. So we can click on Text Box, type S, change it to Inter Black, 24 point, white text, and drag into position. You can then hold down Ctrl and Shift, drag, select both of these, Ctrl and Shift and drag. Again, you can use the cursor keys for some fine adjustment to get these just where you want them. That looks good. Now you have a powerful Swot graphic where you can easily change the text on any of the segments as you wish. A Gantt chart is a type of bar chart that represents a project schedule. It shows the start and finish dates of the various elements of a project. Gantt charts are particularly useful for planning and tracking project timelines, managing resources, and ensuring that all tasks are completed on time. While Gantt charts are often produced using dedicated project management software, it can be really useful to include within a PowerPoint deck and can help project managers and teams show project timelines and progress more effectively during meetings and presentations. PowerPoint doesn't actually have a built-in Gantt chart type, but I will show you a different way to create one using a stacked bar chart. So we'll start off with just this blank page, and I'm going to go to Insert, Chart, and we'll choose a stacked bar chart. So I'll go to Bar, then choose this second option here, Stacked Bar Chart. We can size this so it fits in our slide area, make it a bit wider, and then go to Home and choose Arrange, Align Center to put it right in the center of the slide. So the first thing we'll do is edit our data. This data window will pop up automatically when you add the chart. And I'm going to show you an example of how you can add in the data so that it will work in the Gantt chart. And once I've shown you one line of data, I'm going to quickly paste in the rest of my example data to save time. So I'm firstly going to delete category 2, 3, and 4 by clicking, dragging, and then pressing delete. In my example, I'm going to type in the tasks in the first column, such as concept planning. If we roll over between column A and B, you can see this arrow appears where we can drag out the width. So we can see what's in column A. In this second column, I'm going to put in the start date, the third one the end date, and this is going to be the duration. So I'm going to select both of these, right click, Format Cells, and I'm going to choose Date and click OK. I'm now going to type in my start date, for example 01/01/24. Again, we can click and drag to make sure there's enough space to see this. And for the second one, 01/02/24. To make the duration work, we can type in equals, then click End. It will add it in automatically. Then press minus on the keyboard, and then click Start, and then press Return. So that's put in the gap duration, and you can change this to anything you want, and it will automatically then update. I'm going to leave it on 01/02/24 for now, and then quickly paste in the rest of my example data using the same format. So there's my example data. We're now going to make a few changes to display the Gantt chart correctly. First of all, we'll click on this funnel here, and I don't want to select the end date, just the start and the duration. So I can click this tick here to turn it off, and then click Apply. That's getting closer to what we want. I'm now going to put these in reverse order. And to do that, we can click on this axis, right click, choose Format Axis, and then put the categories in reverse order. Now we need to do the clever bit, where we change it so that the duration bars, which at the moment are these green ones, start on the left. So if I click on this date, right click and choose Format Axis, you'll see that the minimum and maximum are in this number format, rather than the date format up here. But there is a way that we can find out what these are. So if I select these cells, right click, choose Format Cells, I can simply change these back to numbers with no decimals, and then click OK. And now I can see what my lowest number is and what my highest number is. Once we've set these, we can turn them back to the date again for easy editing in the future. So for the minimum, we're going to put the lowest number here, which is 45292. And for the maximum, we're going to put the highest number, which is 45627. Now those are set, we can turn these back to the date format by selecting them, right-clicking, Format Cells, and choosing Date, and clicking OK. Now they're easily editable as dates, and these green bars start at the earliest date and finish at the end, so everything's correctly aligned. Now I can simply click on these blue bars, make sure they're all selected, and then go to Shape Fill, No Fill, and you can now see how this is taking shape. While the whole chart is selected, I'm now going to change the font to Inter. I'm going to make this part bold. And if I click on these, I'm going to change the gap width to 50%, which will make the bars a bit taller. Now I can change the bars to any colour I want. And you can group them by colour into different categories if you want. But to change their colour, you basically have to click on them to make sure the individual ones are selected. So if you've selected your chart, then you click on the bars, the first thing will be that they're all selected. So if you change the colour, they'll all change. But if you click a second time on an individual bar, you can then just change that colour. So I'm going to go in and now change these colours. So I can keep clicking on each individual bar and change it to any colour I want. Now we're going to remove the title and the legend. So if we click on the chart, make sure that you've selected this legend, or you can simply go to plus and turn off the legend. And the same for the title. Here where it says chart title, you can click on it and press delete. Or you can go to the plus and then turn off chart title. We'll close this data window, play this slide, and I think that looks really good. And from here, you can right click, edit data, and change any of these as needed. You could even add in another row. For example, I can right click here, choose Insert Table Rows Above, write Extra Phase, put in whichever dates I want to, I'm just going to copy these, and set it to whatever you want. This is a really nice way of making a Gantt chart using PowerPoint's live data, using some clever techniques to set the start and end date. Another way to produce a Gantt chart is to use a table to display the task list and timeline, and then draw in the bars using shapes. This method allows for greater customization of the visual look, but it does mean that the bars must be adjusted manually if the data is updated. For this example, I will just use simple months for the timeline, but you could use anything you want. So let's draw in a simple table and then add the tasks to the first column and the months along the top row. So we're going to add a 13-column table and 7 rows. So we'll go to Insert, Table, and for this amount of columns, we'll just click Insert Table here and then type them in. As from this selection, you can only select 10. Once created, you can easily add and remove columns and rows as needed. So we'll click Insert Table, we'll type the number of columns, which is 13, and the number of rows, which is 7. We can now drag this roughly into position and size it up. Align it to the middle by choosing Layout, Align Center. I'm going to drag this first column out slightly so it can fit everything in. And for these ones, I'm just going to distribute them automatically by clicking here for Distribute Columns. I'm going to have the font size at 14 point and Enter. I'm now just going to quickly paste in the others to save time. And I've actually chosen different colours for these to align with the different colours of the shapes that I'm going to use in the Gantt chart. Across the top, I'm going to quickly type in the months. I'm just pressing Tab to move across to the following column. Making sure that the whole chart is selected, I'm going to go to Layout and choose this option here, which is to vertically centre all of the text. And just for this row here, I'm going to centre align this text by pressing this Centre option or pressing Ctrl E. I also want to change the font to make it the same. And I'm going to select this shape fill to be None and the colour to be the dark blue. I also want this to be 14 point. I'm going to make this text a little smaller. Now I'm going to fill all of this in grey. Go to Home, Shape Fill and choose a light grey. For this part, I'm going to select it and give it a shape fill of No Fill. We can now draw in the lines for each month. To do that, we can click on Line in the drawing menu. Click and drag, holding down Shift to keep it straight. Then right click on the line, Format Shape, change it to how wide you want. I'm going to select 20 point and give it a rounded end. And now we can press Ctrl D for our next one. Drag it into the position you want. We can align them in a minute. And then to adjust where it goes to, we can hold down Shift and drag. Ctrl D again to duplicate. Position where we want to, hold down Shift to adjust. I'm going to set these to the same colours as the text. Ctrl D again. Hold down Shift to drag it into position, then hold down Shift and drag the end dot to change the length. Ctrl D again to duplicate, and then choose the colour. Ctrl D again. And now, as long as I make sure this last one is vertically centered in the box, and the first one, I can hold down Shift, select all of these, then go to Arrange and choose Align and Distribute vertically. That's a nice way of creating a Gantt chart with your own design, which will give you a lot of flexibility with how you want it to look. Again, this isn't a live PowerPoint chart, so it will just be shapes that you can actually click and adjust to whatever you want. You could even adapt this chart to show a planned versus actual chart when evaluating a finished product. So in this example, I could change all these line thicknesses. So I could type in something like 10, drag them up a bit, press Ctrl D, change the shape outline to something like grey, drag them to align them, and then make any adjustments to the length. And then I could click on one of these, press Ctrl D, and write out underneath what it is. So that might be planned. Just change the font and use the same colour. Pick the blue colour. And Ctrl B for bold and a bit smaller. And adjust this line down. I can centre align these vertically by making sure they're both selected and going to Align Middle. Put this where I want it. Ctrl D again, and this will be the other lines, which will be something like actual. You can colour these however you want. For example, we could set this up with a gradient line, going from left to right. I'll just click and drag to get these away. And on the direction, I'm going to choose this one here, linear right. This first point, I'm going to choose this light blue colour. For the second point, the dark blue. So now we have an even more flexible Gantt chart where you can set up any comparisons you want. Layer diagrams can be used to illustrate hierarchies, processes, or systems in a visually appealing way. They can help take complex information and make it more organised and digestible. For example, you could show a company structure or the components of a technical system. They are great at showing how parts of a system relate to or depend on each other. So we'll start with our title and subtitle, and now let's draw a square. Go to the drawing menu, pick rectangle, click anywhere, and the default is 2.54. We're going to make this 5 by 5. We're going to use PowerPoint's 3D formatting capabilities to create each layer. And to do that, we can right-click, choose Format Shape, then go to this second option here, Effects, and choose 3D Rotation. Under the Preset menu, I'm going to choose the third one in the Parallel section, which is called Isometric Top Up. Under 3D Format, I'm going to change the depth to 10 point. I'm also going to turn off the outline, so go to Shape Outline and choose None. You can set various material options and choose different styles of lighting. For this one, I'm going to choose Balance. Now we'll align this to the centre. I'm going to align and choosing Centre. I'll hold down Shift, click my mouse down and drag down. This is going to be the bottom one. Then press Ctrl D to duplicate. We can drag this anywhere because we're going to be aligning it in a minute to make sure we've got the space between each of them correct. Ctrl D again, and again, and again, and again. We've now got 6 layers, and I'm going to select the very top one, hold down Shift and drag it up to about here. Now we can click, drag over all of them, and make sure they're all selected. Then go to Arrange, Align, and choose Distribute Vertically. Now they all have exactly the same amount of spacing, and we're utilising the height of the slide. We're now going to add a panel for the information. For that, we're going to use a rounded corner rectangle. Click anywhere. I'm going to set this to 3 centimeters high by 9 centimeters wide, and I'm going to make this a light grey with no outline. Also, I'm going to reduce the size of these rounded corners by clicking on the yellow dot and dragging to the left. Now we can add in our text, and I'm going to quickly paste in some text to save time. And now we're going to add a 5-point line between this and this. Firstly, I'll drag it into position. Then I'll go to Line, click here and drag. Under the line settings in Format Shape, I want this to be 5-point and also the same grey. That looks good. Now we can click on this, hold down Shift, click on this, and press Ctrl G to group. Now if we right click and centre back, that's our first one done. To copy the ones on this side, I can click on it, hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag it down. And the same for this one, second from bottom. I'm going to make sure these are all aligned by selecting all of them and going to Arrange, Align, Align Center. Now I can select all of these and drag them right up to the edge, or use the cursor keys for some fine adjustments. We can copy these across for the other side and simply move the line to the other side. So if I press Ctrl D, I'll drag this down to the height I want, and again use the cursors for some fine adjustment. Then while we're on the line, holding down Shift and dragging across, I can now click on one of these, click on it a second time, hold down Shift and drag the line over to the left. Position it on the edge, do the same for each one of these, so I'm clicking twice, holding down Shift and dragging the line across. Now I can select all of these by clicking and dragging over them, then holding down Shift and dragging to the left, using the cursors for some fine adjustment, and then right clicking and choosing Center back again. Now these are all in the right place, I'm going to adjust these colours for variation, all from the colour palette that I'm using. I'm also going to quickly paste in the text for the different sections. Now I have all the correct text pasted in, just going to add in some basic animations to really bring the slide to life. So we'll click on this first panel, choose Animations, Fly In, go to the animation pane by clicking Animation Pane here, double click on this and choose Smooth End so it will slow down as it gets to the end. And for this, I'm going to choose Fade and Start After Previous. Just check this first one. Looking good. So I'll now apply that to the others. And we can click on this, go to Animation Painter, click on this because we're copying it, and then click on this and choose Fade and After Previous. So now each click will reveal one of the layers, and after it, the information panel will fade in. Again, we can click on the layer, choose Animation Painter, and click to apply it to the one below. Now if we run that, each click will reveal a layer, and then the information will reveal afterwards. A nice and impactful way of revealing information of a structure or anything similar. A data dashboard is a visual display of key information and metrics covering various aspects of a business or project. As it typically collects data from different sources and presents it in an easy-to-read format, it is important to take the raw data and convert it into a consistent and clear format. Firstly, I'll take 6 rectangles and arrange them into a grid. So we'll go into Drawing, choose Rounded Corner Rectangle, which is the second one in the Rectangles section. Click anywhere, then we can drag this to the size we want. We can click this small yellow dot and drag it to the left to reduce how rounded the corners are. This is about the right size, so I'll now go to Shape Fill, choose a very light grey, and Shape Outline, no outline. Pressing Ctrl D will duplicate this, and then if we drag it into position where the smart guides appear, I can let go, and pressing Ctrl D will duplicate it again. I can now select all of these by clicking and dragging over them, Ctrl G to group, then going to Arrange and choosing Align Center. I can now ungroup these, just Shift Ctrl G. While they're still selected, I can hold down Ctrl and Shift, click on them, and then drag down and drop it in the right position. And now I've got my 6 panels. I'm going to add a title into each box. So we can click on them. For example, this one's going to be Total Revenue. If I right click and choose Format Shape, go to this text box options and click Text Box, I can set the vertical alignment of the text to be top and a slightly bigger margin. Something like 0.3 will do. And I'll also set it to a dark colour. And to the font Inter and Bold. I also want this to be one size smaller, so I'll click this little a and make it 16. I can now type the text for the other boxes. And we can easily apply this format to this box by holding down Ctrl and Shift and pressing C. So that copies the format, and then Ctrl Shift V will paste the format. when the other boxes are selected. So I'll just quickly add in the others. Now, if we press Ctrl-Shift-C on this one, we can then select all of these by clicking on one, holding down Shift and clicking on the others, and then Ctrl-Shift-V to paste the format. Now we can add in our various graphical elements for the dashboard. So for the first one, I'm just going to have some big text. So I can click on a text box, click here, type the amount. I want this small text to be 16, so I'll just select that bit and click the smaller A to reduce the font size. And then for this one, I'm going to make this really big, 54 point, and I'm just going to type that in. Now I can drag it into position, center the text, make it the correct font. I'm going to make just this bit bold, and this bit I'm also going to make this bright blue. That looks good. A high impact way of showing this particular part of the dashboard, which is the total revenue. For the second part of the dashboard, I'm going to add in a simple donut chart, which will just illustrate a percentage statistic. To do that, we go to Insert, Chart, Pie, and then click on this one, Donut. Click OK. In the data here, I'm going to type in 80 for the top one, 20 for the second one, each time pressing return, and then delete these two. We can now click on this X to close this, size it down so it fits inside our panel. We don't need this title or this, and to get rid of these, you can either click on them and press delete, or you can press this plus button and turn them off here. I'm going to make some small adjustments to how thick this is, so I can click on the donut chart. On the whole size, I'm going to take this down to 60%, so I'll type 60 there. And I also want to add data labels. So from the chart elements, we can select this, data labels. I don't want the 20, so I can click on the data labels once, then click again on the 20 and press delete. For the 80, I'm just going to drag this into position here. This I'm going to make size 24 and enter, so I can type 24 in here, bold, and enter. You can also add a percentage by just typing it in, or going to the number section in the format data label and adding it that way. I'm just doing it this way because it's quite quick. Then I can drag this into the center and make this a little bit bigger by clicking on this corner handle, holding down the mouse, then holding down Ctrl and Shift and dragging out. Just going to move this down a little bit. And also, I want to set the shape outline to none. So while it's selected, I'll go to Shape Outline and choose No Outline. So that looks good. For the top performing region, I'm going to add in a map. So I can click Insert, Chart, then we'll choose Map. When we click OK, it will add a default map that includes all of these countries that are pre-selected here. If we click on cell A3 and drag down to B13, that will select everything except for the United States, and then I can press delete. So now we just have a map of the United States, which is what we want in this example. We can click Close, and I want to remove a couple of elements, so we'll click on this plus, turn off the chart title, and turn off the legend. However, we also need to cut and paste it so we can remove this. So we'll make sure it's selected, press Ctrl X to cut, then go to Paste, Paste Special, choose Paste as SVG. This will allow us to edit it. Now we can right click, choose Convert Shape, then right click again, choose Ungroup, group and ungroup again. Now we can delete this text by dragging over it, clicking Delete. There's an element of the map we don't need, which is a blank part here, which we can just click on and press Delete. Now we can click on this entire map, drag it to the position we want, hold down Shift as we drag the corner to keep the proportion the same, and then let go when we've got it about the right size. And now we can go to Shape Fill and choose our color. Shape Outline, choose No Outline. Just want to make it a tiny bit smaller. To do that, we can hold down Control and Shift and drag from the outside to size it from the center, and that looks good. We can now quickly add the text of the important data point over the top. Click to drag it into position, and we'll make this white, Inter, bold, and 15 point. And we can also align this to the center, either by pressing Ctrl E or clicking here, and drag this into position. For the historical revenue panel, we're going to use a basic line chart. So we'll go to Insert, Chart, Line, and select this one. Stacked line with markers. Click OK. We only actually want one of these lines, so I'm going to delete series 2 and 3 by clicking, dragging, and then pressing delete. I'll type in the data I want for this and for the categories. We can right-click on these to format them, choose Format Cells, Currency. I only want one decimal place, and I want this to be dollars. Now we can close this, and then delete the parts of the graph that we don't want. So we can go to this plus, turn off the chart title, turn off the grid lines and the legend. We can also click on this axis and click delete. Now we can size this down, drag it into position, we can change the font in here to match the font of the rest of the slide, which is Inter. We can add some data labels by going to plus and choosing data labels. We can make this bold and Inter, the same as the rest of it. We can also choose the position that appears by going to this option here, label options. We can choose below. I'm now going to make the markers a little bigger, so we can click on the markers, then go to this paint bucket and we'll see this marker option here. Click on it, expand marker options. We can choose built-in. We'll keep it as a circle, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So that's looking really good. It still shows the key information and all the information that's needed in a very clear way without any data that's not needed. For the improvements panel, we're going to add 2 arrows, one growth that will go up and one cost that will come down. So we'll go to the drawing menu and choose an arrow. This one will do. Click to add it and we can size it to whatever we want. You can adjust how big these are by clicking and dragging. I'm going to set the shape outline to no outline. Drag this across a bit. Once we've got it how we want it, we can press Ctrl D. Drag it into the position we want. Then go to rotate and choose flip vertical. We can now add our text. So go to home, click on the text box, click and drag, type growth, 34%. I'm going to make that bit of it 24 point. And this bit 16. Then we can click, move it down into position, align to the center, make it white, Inter and bold. We can also give this one a different color. So I could use this color for this one. And then I can select this text, Ctrl D to duplicate that and drag it into this position. That looks good. Now let's finally add the focus areas with 2 icons. For that, we'll go to Insert, Icons. For the first one, I'm going to type time. Click Insert. Drag it into position. We can change the color of this by changing the graphics fill. So I'm going to choose this bright blue. And if we want to make it a bit thicker, we can go to Graphics Outline, choose the same light blue for that. Now I'm going to click on it, drag it into position, press Ctrl D, That will be my second icon. I'll drag that into position. And for this, we can right click on it, change graphic from icons, and choose our new one, which is for innovative ideas in this example. So I'll just type ideas, select this one. It will keep the same color outline because we've gone to change icon. Now those are in position, I can add some text underneath. So for this one, I'm going to type response time. Size it down to 14 point. Make it inter and bold. I can put these on 2 lines and center them like this. Press Ctrl D. Drag it into position. For this one, we'll type innovative ideas. We can move all these up very slightly by clicking, dragging over them, holding down Shift as you're on this sideline, and then dragging up. These now look really good, a really powerful way of showing your key metrics. If you'd like to add some animation to these, a really easy way is to click outside the panel, drag over it, make sure it's all selected and press Ctrl G to group. We'll do that for each one. So that will mean each panel is its own grouped element. Now we can select them all, go to Animations, Zoom, under Effect Options we'll choose Slide Center, and then Start on Click. So now when we run that, each click will reveal one of those panels from the center of the slide. A really nice way to present your information and bring up the details as you talk about them. The first slide that every business presentation starts with is a title slide. Title slides should be eye-catching and memorable and can set the tone for the rest of the deck. While I can't show you the exact examples you can use, using only generic content, we can still explore some basic principles and cover things that you need to include to create a striking title slide. If you want to include the same title slide on a series of presentations, it may be worthwhile editing the title slide layout in the Slide Master. You can do this by going to View, Slide Master, and choosing the title slide. For simplicity in this example, I will just use this default layout and edit the elements on the slide. To change layouts at any time, you can right-click on the background and choose Layout and select the layout you want. We'll now select a background, and for that we can right-click on the background, choose Format Background, Picture or Texture Fill, and Insert. Either from a file if you have it on the computer, or in this example, I'm just going to choose something from stock images. So I'll select that and click Insert. That will size it perfectly to the full screen. Ideally for your image, you should be using a picture or a graphic of your product or service or potential customers, and try to find something that visually communicates what your product or business is all about. The example that I've chosen is for a presentation with a focus on sustainability. On your title slide, you could include a company logo if you have one, and I'm just going to quickly paste in this example here. Now we can edit the text. So I'll just paste in my text, save time. Then I'll click on the outside dot to make sure everything's selected and choose white. I'm also going to choose Inter Black for this font and hold down Shift and drag it down into position. I'm now going to add in the subtitle, which I'll just put my name and email, making sure it's Inter, and I'm going to bold the name, click on the outside and select white. Then hold down Shift, click on the side of the box here and drag it down. When you add your logo, it should be in a format that includes transparency, so maybe an SVG, scalable vector graphic, or PNG, portable network graphic, would be preferable to a JPEG. I'll now show you one more example, and while it's great to find a bright, eye-catching image, it's important that the text remains clearly legible, so contrast is really key. So I'll go to Format Background, change it to a different picture, change the title, drag this out while holding Ctrl and Shift. And in this case, I think the text could be a bit more legible. And there's a number of ways of doing this. I'm going to hold down Shift and drag it down so it's vertically centered. We could click on the circle on the outside to make sure everything's selected, and then click here to add shadow. You can also adjust the shadow by going to Text Options in this Format Shape section, Text Effects, Shadow, and make any changes you want from the default shadow there. For example, if we brought down the transparency, it would make the shadow darker and the text easier to read. You can also adjust things like the blur and the distance. We could also darken the background by right-clicking on it, choosing Format Background, then going to these options here, where there's a picture of a mountain and a sun, and then going to Picture Corrections and reducing the brightness as needed. So if you just drag it a bit to the left, it will become darker. There's also the option to use a semi-transparent panel behind your text. So for example, I could go to the Drawing section, choose a rounded corner rectangle, drag it out here, make sure it's aligned to the center by going to Align, Center, right-click, Center Back. I can make it a little bit taller. I can hold down Ctrl and Shift and drag here upwards to size it from the center. And I can vertically align this by selecting the text, holding down Shift, clicking on the panel, then going to Arrange, Align Middle. Now if we click off and then just click to select this blue panel, I can click and drag on this little yellow dot, which will change how rounded the corners are, then go to Shape Outline, select No Outline, Shape Fill, select Black, then adjust the transparency as I want. 50 looks pretty good. So there's one way of darkening up the background just in one place to help the text really stand out with any background. If you have no obvious images that you can use for your title slide, you can still make it clear and impactful with this example. And for variation, I'm going to make it a left-aligned example this time. So we can delete our panel, click on the outside, select our text and align it to the left. I'm going to click to delete that logo and paste in a horizontal version, which I think works better in this design. Hold down Shift and drag it to the left. Then for the text below, click on the outer dot again, align it to the left, hold down Shift and drag the box to the left. Now for the background, we can right-click on it, go to Format Background, go to Gradient Fill. We can drag these away by clicking on them and dragging up or down. So I'm going to choose this dark teal colour here, then click on the other side, and I'm going to choose this other teal colour. This looks good. We don't necessarily need the shadow on this, so if you want to, you can just click on here to remove it. Hold down Shift and drag it up to position. I could also add some decorative elements, for example, using the inbuilt illustrations library is a nice easy way of doing this. So I can go to Insert. We can click on icons so we can get up the library. So I can choose illustrations. Then type in something like circle. Select this and click Insert. I'm going to right-click on this, group, ungroup, and say yes. That will make it different elements, which I can click on these and then press delete. Now I can drag this into any position I want. Hold down Shift to size it up to any position I want. Change it to any color, such as white, and adjust the transparency of the fill. I'm going to set it to 80%. Clicking on this and pressing Ctrl D will duplicate it, and I'm going to drag it up here. Hold down Shift and drag it from the corner to size it down. Then drag it up again to put it where I want. And that makes a really nice, quickly designed, powerful, impactful title slide. Finally, if we had a product example, such as the one from the product feature slide that we made previously, we could add that. So I'll just quickly paste that in. Size the text down a bit by pressing this small a with the arrow down and drag it across. And now we have another simple variation of a powerful title slide with your product or service. Using an agenda slide at the beginning of a presentation ensures a more organised, engaging, and effective communication process. It gives the audience a clear overview of what will be covered and can help the presenter stay on track and ensures that they cover all the key points. A simple agenda works best as it allows the audience to focus on key topics and saves time by avoiding unnecessary details. Here is an example with 4 sections. So to create this, we'll start by adding 4 circles. We'll go to the drawing menu, choose oval from basic shapes. Clicking anywhere will draw a perfect circle, and I'm going to set this to 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters in the size. So if we make sure this is selected, we can simply type 6, press tab, and 6 again. I'm going to select the shape outline, choose the same color, but then we're going to change the thickness of it and the transparency. So we can right click, go to Format Shape, and under the line option, I'm going to type in 10 point for the width and set the transparency to 50%. This gives a nice outline. I can now click to make sure it's selected and type in my text, and then we'll set the font. So we'll click on the outside to make sure everything's selected, and I'm going to choose Inter Bold. Because I'm going to add a small circle for which section number it is, in the top part of this circle, I want the text to move down slightly, and to do that, I can go to Text Options, Text Box, and then Top Margin. I'm going to type 1 centimeter. Now we can add in the top circle. Again, we'll go into Shapes, click on Oval, click anywhere. The shape fill for this one, I'm going to choose dark blue, and Shape Outline, no outline. We can click on it, type our number, then change it to the font that we want, again Inter Bold. I want this to be 1.5 centimeters, so for that we can go to Shape Format and type in 1.5. The same for the width. Now we can drag this into position until the vertical Smart Guide appears and drop it. Finally, we're going to add some description text underneath, and to do that we can click on the text box in the drawing menu, click and drag for where we want it to be roughly. We can resize it later if we need to, and then type in our text. I'm going to size this down a bit, again making it Inter and also the dark blue colour. Click on this middle point and drag it out, and also go to the paragraph section and click Center or press Ctrl E, and then hold down Shift, click on this part to drag and move up. So that's one part of it perfectly done. Now we can simply click away from it, hold down and drag over, and that's all of this selected, so we'll click and drag it into position. There's about right. Ctrl D to duplicate it, and click and drag it into position until the smart guides appear, then Ctrl D and Ctrl D again, and now we have our 4 sections that are quite easy to modify as all the design is done. I'll just quickly type in the text for these other 3. If anything wraps at any point, we can always go to Text Options and either increase the size of the left and right margins, or go to Wrap Text in Shape and turn it off. I'm going to quickly paste in the text for the descriptions below to save time. And now we have a nice, impactful agenda. And if you want to talk through each point, we can use animation to focus on each point in turn. So for example, if we wanted to highlight section 1 as we talk about it, we can click on this blue circle, go to Animations, Add Animation, and under the Emphasis section, we can go to Fill Color. This will currently change the fill color of this option when it's clicked on, and we can change this to any color we want, for example, this lime green. So now when we run the slide, we can click and it will highlight option 1 to help draw the audience's attention to the section we're discussing. When we move on to section 2, we could actually reset section 1 to the original colour. To do this, we can first copy across this animation to highlight it, and to do that, we can click on Animation Painter in the Advanced Animations section, and then click on the other section we want to highlight. If you double click on the Animation Painter, it will allow you to click once here to apply it, and click anywhere again to apply it to anything else. You can press Escape or click on it again to turn it off. So currently we have it where each click will highlight each section. If we want to speed this up, we can go to Animation Pane, and you can see that each duration is 2 seconds. I could click on number 1, hold down Shift and click on number 4. So now they're all selected, and then change the duration down to something like half a second. This will make it look more snappy. If we wish to change the colour back on the ones we've already talked about, we can add a secondary animation. So we can click on this number 1, go to Add Animation, choose Fill Colour, select the blue that it started off as. We can set the duration so it's the same, half a second, and I want to drag this one up so that when number 2 is clicked on, number 1 goes back to blue. So I'm going to drag this up to this point here by clicking on it, dragging it and dropping it between item number 3 and item number 2, and setting it so it happened with previous. So now when we run that, number 1 will highlight, and then we click to highlight number 2, and number 1 will go back to its previous colour. I'll show you again how to do that as we go through sections 3 and 4. I'll also show you how you can rename each one of these to help you reference which one you're changing. And to do that, you can go to Home, Arrange and choose Selection Pane, and then rename them as you wish. I'm going to call this one Circle 2. Click on this one, call it Circle 1. Press Return. So each time we click on it, then click over here, select the text that we don't want, type in the name we want to give it, and I'll just do the final one here. Now we can go back to the animation pane. Because it was already open, I can just click here on this little tab window that says Animation Pane. You can see now that it says Circle 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is going to make it easier to reference which one we're doing. So we'll add the fade back to blue on Circle 2 by going to Animations, Add Animation, Fill Colour, go to Effect Options and change it back to the blue it originally was. Duration, always 1/4 of a second in this example, and start with previous for these. And we want Circle 2 to go back to blue when Circle 3 is clicked on, so I just drag it up one place here and drop it here. So we can test that works. We can talk about section 1. Click, and section 1 fades back to blue and 2 goes green, and then click to advance to section 3 as that highlights. We'll finally add one more animation to section 3. So we'll click on that, Add Animation, Fill Colour, Effect Options, back to the original blue. Change the duration to 1/4 of a second and make it start with previous. We don't actually have to drag that one anywhere because it's actually in the right position now. Effectively, after Circle 4 is clicked on, then Circle 3 will fade back to blue. So we'll now just run that and test. And this provides a powerful way of clicking through and talking about each section and drawing the audience's attention to the section you're talking about. As a second example, if you have a lot of sections, you could use a simple list format. In this example, we'll use a different background colour to separate the slide from the rest of the deck. So if we start on our standard layout, right-click, Format Background, and choose this blue colour here. For the title, we can click on that click outside, go to Home and choose White. Now we can add our text box, go to Text Box, drag it over most of the screen. We can adjust the size later if needed. I'm going to quickly paste in my text to save time. And I also want this to be 2 columns, so I'll go to Text Options, click on this text box here, go to Columns and type 2 with a spacing of 5 centimeters. We'll click OK. I'm also going to go to the paragraph settings, click on this little arrow here, and for the spacing after, I'm going to select 24 points. This spaces the different sections out nicely. I'm going to choose Inter Font for this, choose the dark blue font, set the font to 16, but I'm also going to go in, select each title, press Ctrl B or click on the B here to make it bold, and size it up to 20 point. So you can also select this, and then this box will appear, and here we can press the B and up the size from here. You can also simply press Ctrl B on the keyboard, and while the Control key is still held down, you can press the right square bracket and that will size it up by 1, and the right square bracket again will size it up again. There's a number of different quick ways that we've got to change the size and format of text. We can click the cursor here and press return so that new business will go on the other side. Here I'm just pressing Ctrl B and then Ctrl and right square bracket twice. Now I can click on the outside of this box and drag it into the position I want. And I'm going to add in some circles for each of these sections. So we can go to the drawing menu, choose oval, click anywhere, select my fill, which I want to be dark blue, shape outline, no outline, type the number in the box, click on the outside to make sure everything's selected, and change it to the font we're using, which is into bold. I'm also going to go to shape format and size it down to 1.75 by 1.75. So pressing tab to move between these two boxes, and then click, hold down the mouse and drag it into position. I'm going to click here to drag this text box out slightly so that each section takes up the same amount of lines. So that looks good. Again, drag it into position. And now we can click on this. So now we can press Ctrl D, drag it into position where the smart guides appear, and then Ctrl D again and Ctrl D again. Then we can select all of them by holding down Shift and clicking, and then Ctrl D and drag those into position. Now I can quickly update the numbers. Each time I'm clicking, pressing Ctrl A to select the number and then just typing. So there's a nice way of including more options in something like a list, which can be handled in one big text box with 2 columns, and adding some basic graphic elements such as these circles to give it more impact and help people know which section is which. If, for example, we only had something like the 4 sections, then we can delete this text by clicking and dragging up here and pressing delete. I can click on one of these circles, hold down Shift to select the others and click delete. If we want, we can move this across slightly by making sure everything's selected and clicking and dragging it into the position we want. And then we could do something like add a photo in the right and drag this back to the left. So I'll hold down Shift, click on this bottom line and drag it over to the left. Now we can add a picture on the right by going to Insert, Pictures, choosing any picture from your computer or the stock images. I'm just going to choose the stock images. Select anything we want to use and click Insert. Now we can hold down Shift and drag it to the right, or go to Home, Arrange, Align and Align Right. And then we have a nice powerful image and also our agenda all on the same slide. In longer business presentations, using section header slides can be beneficial. They separate different parts of the presentation, helping the audience understand the progression of topics. Because they signal transitions, this allows the audience to reset their attention and prepare for the new content. The section headers help to make well-structured presentations which appear more polished and professional. So let's start with the title and subtitle of our section header slide, then change the background colour to one from our theme. So we right-click, go to Format Background and choose the colour blue. We can click on the outside dot of this top text and make that white. Changing the background colour will provide a visual break, preventing information overload and keeping the audience engaged. We'll start by moving these both into the middle. So we can click on one, hold down Shift, click on the other, then hold down Shift and click and drag on the side here to drag them into the middle. I'm also going to add a return here, so I'll press return. And then I can drag this down a bit by holding down Shift. We can make this a little bigger by increasing the font size to say something like 48. And we could also add a circle, which will match the agenda slide we created in a previous lesson. So we can go to the drawing section, click on oval, click anywhere, change the fill color. We're going to choose this dark blue and then go to shape outline and choose no outline. We can now type the number in there, click on the outside dot and then go and change the font to Inter Black, size 24. If I want to size it down a bit, it's important to hold Shift to keep this a perfect circle. Then we can go to Arrange, Align and choose Align Center, and then hold down Shift and drag it down. That looks good. I just want to move the whole lot down a little bit, so I can click outside the elements, drag across all of them until they're all selected. Move the mouse to any of the lines, hold down Shift and drag it down. We could also create a variation using the gradient background from a previous lesson. So we could right-click, Format Background and choose Gradient Fill. We can click on these and drag them down or up to get rid of them. Then from the gradient we can select our two colours by clicking on each one and then going to the colour drop-down. You can choose whichever direction you want. We could remove this subtitle if we didn't want it. And if we wanted to, we could replace this with something like an icon. So we could go to Insert, Icons, type in whatever we want, click to add it, click and hold down Shift to drag up, and to size it up, hold Ctrl and Shift while dragging the corner out. Now I can select Graphics Fill and choose white. Now we can select both of these, click on one, hold down Shift, click on the other one, then hold down Shift while you're on any line and drag down. And if you want to create subsequent section slides, it's as simple as going to Ctrl D from your slide sorter, right click on this, choose Change Graphic from Icons, click on any icon that you want, type in the new title. You have two powerful and impactful section slides.